and we are live. What is going on, my specialist SPC here, and welcome back to another episode of the Midwest Cantina podcast. So, guys, today I got two brand new guests to the channel. This is the very first time, so make sure you guys give them a good, warm welcome. We've got Brad and Miguel from the Let's Talk Movies podcast YouTube channel. How are you guys doing today?
We're both doing great. Thank you for having us on, my man.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you having us on.
Oh yeah, I've been wanting to set this up since we talked on Flet's big podcast he did last year.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Lots happened during that time. Yeah, that was a really great podcast.
It was a big show.
There
was a lot going on that show. It was fun though.
I only remember us talking about like a couple actual like horror movie things, and like the other like 80% was us just trashing Halloween Ends.
It really was.
Yeah.
And I think I was late to the party, so
yeah.
I just couldn't show up because like there was I think the limit is like 10 people in StreamYard, and I think I was the 11th, and I was like, you guys have fun, I guess. Because I knew you guys were just already off to the races knowing Flet's show. And I was just like, I'll be as soon as you guys are done, I'll be happy to hop right on. So I got to hop on for you guys.
And speaking of the devil, he is here. We got Flet
Hello.
from Flet's
just the man we were talking about.
Ironic. So guys, today we are here to talk about Resident Evil, and I've just been wanting to talk about it because I've been on such a Resident Evil high the last like 3-4 weeks since this bad boy dropped. I've been playing it non-stop. Just beat it yesterday. I beat it actually.
Did you?
Yeah.
So how long did it take you from start to finish?
I was 10 minutes short of 19 hours.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It's the longest game I think as of now.
Really?
I've played.
You know, I don't really know like what's the standard length for a video game playthrough. So like, is that like above average, or is that right around or below? Like,
I think for most that I played, it's kind of like above, because like I'm a guy, I play like God of War and stuff because that's like my favorite video game franchise. And 2018 God of War, man, I couldn't even tell you how many hours I put into that game. But
I think I only ever played the first God of War. I don't know if I ever
man.
played anything past part 1.
You are missing out, my friend. That's all I can tell you.
I'm sure that is the case.
I'm not very far into Ragnarok. I think I played it for like 2-3 days, and I had to just put it down for a little while because I couldn't stop myself.
Oh, okay. I was like, were you not liking the lore? I was like, I hope you were liking it, because that's a good thing on it. Yeah.
It becomes an addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, that's also what this has been lately too. So,
well, I'm sure God of War is on my plate too. I think as soon as I'm able to get my hands on a PS4 system, I'll have to get God of War, because especially Ragnarok, because I've watched the playthrough and I just love the story that it's got. So I really want to be the one to play it, but. Yeah, just gotta wait on finding me a freaking system though, so we'll go from there.
Yeah, the fourth game. That's the 2018 game. That one and Ragnarok, man, they have the deepest story in this entire series. Like it's just beautiful. I love it so much.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, Brad, you gotta get on that.
I know.
Yeah,
dude, I gotta get on gaming more. Like I used to play quite a bit, and I fell off of it. Like I got to college. And it just kind of went away. It just like slowly fizzled out. So and I've been out of college for almost 5 years now. So like it's time to get back up on the train.
Well, you weren't thinking? Were you thinking that like after college you're gonna be like, I'm gonna have all this time to play video games?
But then being an adult.
No, well, you just gotta parse out sometimes, and then at that point we can enjoy what we all love to do. So.
And then think about this: I started playing again, and then I said, "Hey, Miguel, let's start a YouTube channel."
Oh yeah.
So then that went out the door. I was playing 7 because I had played 7 when it first Resident Evil 7 when it first came out, and I rushed through it for some reason, which is very weird because that's not typically how I game. Like I'm the kind of person who likes to take my time and look at every single corner of the like. I don't care if it takes me 19 hours or 40 hours. Like I don't care about that, you know. But yeah, I rushed through 7 and I was like it got to the point I was like I don't even barely remember like what happened. Like so I went back and I actually played through 7 during the pandemic at the beginning.
And that's the scariest. At least what I've read is like that's the scariest Resident Evil game that of the franchise so far, isn't it?
It's up there.
For me, it is.
I still
I'll
think
say that, yeah.
there's something about the earlier ones, like 4 and before, that just feel different. Like I understand what they were trying to do with 7, like bringing like 7 and 8, bringing back the survival horror stuff, but I don't know. 7 and 8 had a very different vibe for me than the rest of the series. I don't know if you would agree with that, Austin, but it just was very, very different. And it wasn't bad. It was definitely different from what I had been used to. So it was almost a little bit of like a shock when 7 came out because I was like, this is a different, like completely different direction, kind of in a sense, you know.
Mm-hmm. I think that's why I gravitate more towards 7 and 8 more than I probably do most of the series because
yeah,
I'm somebody. Of course, I'm a diehard horror fan, so like. When I just played the demo originally. I don't even remember what it was called, like the basement demo or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
I played that. I mean, there's nothing exciting going on in it, but I just got done playing it and I fell in love. I ran right to my GameStop, pre-ordered the game, and man, unpopular opinion, 7 is my favorite of the entire series.
Woo!
Is it?
It is. It's the game I played the most out of the series. It's the game that honestly like terrified me, like to not even want to get back into it. But I was just so intrigued of what I missed the first time. It's the first full game I've ever played in VR, and literally pissed my pants playing that. Especially when you get to the Marguerite Baker
I've
fight.
never played it in VR, but I bet it's nuts.
That's the way to play that game.
Yeah,
like it's like. When I first started playing, like you start off and there's like a desk or something in front of you, and it's like literally like this far away. You're like just trying to back up so you don't run into it. It's just it's insane just being inside the Baker house.
I bet, man. Even the beginning, I will say it was a very cool aesthetic. The beginning of that game when you're walking through like the marshland and stuff to get into the Baker house, like it felt that had the same vibe as. In the beginning of Resident Evil 4 when Leon he's dropped off by the cops and he's walking when he finds the dog and he's kind of walking making his way to the village before all hell breaks loose. But so yeah, that's you got to say like Resident Evil is, as far as like building atmosphere, it's about as good as any game has ever been at building atmosphere. I have such a love for this franchise, man, and it's I mean, like anything else, look at Halloween. I'm a diehard Halloween fan, but like Halloween's got its ups and downs. Resident Evil's had its ups and downs. It's had its hits and its misses, but like overall, it's maybe one of the most consistently good video game franchises that there's ever been.
Yeah, I would agree with
hands
that.
Down. Mm-hmm. At least, especially in the main series. I mean, when you look at like 1 through 8, I mean, they're all solid. Like 100%.
Yeah, like every single installment hasn't missed. I mean, there's definitely been some installments where like they're not as popular, but collectively through the board, they've all been like pretty well done. And I think everybody can find enjoyment in every single game that was out there. So.
Now, admittedly, I haven't played through Village. I know I'm slacking. For somebody who claims to be such a big Resident Evil fan, I'm slacking. I haven't played through Village, and I have not played the 4. I actually haven't played any of the remakes yet.
Really?
None of the remakes.
Yeah, huh? I've seen a lot. I mean, I know they look good. They they seem awesome. I just haven't made it through them yet. But it's a goal. It's a goal. I'm gonna make it there.
Sooner or later, he'll be there. Sure,
I will.
Yeah. I would definitely say the last 5 games that have come out on the RE engine, to me, they've just been the best of the games that I have played. Because sadly, growing up, and as for some people, they like to claim right away I'm not a Resident Evil fan, but I never got the luxury to play the first 3 games at all.
Mm-hmm.
I tried playing the remake of the first game, and I couldn't do it, man. Them tank controls, I hate it so much.
The fixed corners where you can't see what you're going towards or moving away from, or you round a corner and there's a clicker there, and you're like, or not a clicker, a zombie or something there, and you're like, oh, well, okay,
Yeah, especially in that one too. After you kill the zombie and you go around and they turn into like the redheads.
Yeah, the redhead, the crimson head.
Crimson head there.
Crimson heads, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty terrifying. I will willingly admit I threw my remote up in the air the first time I ran into one of
those. So you said your introduction to Resident Evil was which one?
My actual introduction to the series was actually the original Resident Evil 4. I think I got to the Verdugo fight down where you got to like knock down all the CO2 tanks and stuff.
Yeah.
And I just, at that point in time, this was like 2010, 2011, so I was playing on the PS2. I could not get past this, so I put the game away. I didn't touch it ever again. And then I got reintroduced to the series with 7, and then I decided, I should maybe go through, play them. So I did eventually buy 4. I bought it when it was on sale because I was like, I hear it's good, but I guess I'll get my own opinion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's overall game, it's good. Again, under unpopular opinion, I think it's very overrated for what it is, personally.
Resident Evil 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
The original?
The original. I think it is. I don't think, like I said, it's not a bad game, but for me, it's not what I want or what I like in Resident Evil. Like 7 for me is like the definition of what I like in the series. Even 2, I know you haven't played it, but Resident Evil 2 remake, it takes that same thing, the dark corridors, being in the RPD, walking around there. It works. Same thing with Village. It feels more like gothic horror than anything.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Like for me, 4 was my introduction. Like back when it released, or this probably would have been 2000. It came out in 2004. This probably would have been 2005, 2006. But my dad was a huge Resident Evil fan already. So he's kind of who I credit with like getting me into that franchise. But I remember him playing Survivor. I don't know. Did you ever play Resident Evil Survivor?
Nope.
It was another crazy. That was a PS1 game. So it was just like the weird graphics, the weird. It didn't have the fixed camera angles like the first 3 like main timeline games had, but it was more.
It was almost like it was
first person kind of.
Yeah.
It was almost the same way that Resident Evil 7 is, but it takes place. I believe it also took place during or before, after, just after the events of Raccoon City. But anyways, I remember him playing Survivor, and then when he started playing 4. I used to sit and watch him play it, and we started playing it together and stuff. And I'm kind of the opposite of you. 4 is like God tier video game for me. Like I played through that game probably more than any other video game of all time. Like straight run throughs more and more. I mean, I remember beating that game for the first time, and when it's Miguel's favorite trope in video games is the rocket launcher thing. Resident Evil's always got to have a rocket launcher. When you're in trouble, there's a rocket launcher somewhere close.
Yeah.
But like the moment that Leon is fighting Salazar and Ada throws him the rocket launcher at the end, when like I was playing and my dad's sitting on the couch next to me, and when I picked up the rocket launcher and Leon throws it back and it pauses to go to the cutscene, we were like. Like it was like winning the lottery, dude. It was amazing. So I have such fond memories of playing Resident Evil 4. It's just that game will always mean a lot to me. And then it kind of carried over with 5 because 5 was kind of my baby. 4 was his baby that I fell in love with too. 5, because if you remember, I guess you weren't really a Resident Evil fan at that point. When did you say you started playing? Because that 5 came out in 2009, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was 8 or 9, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I really didn't get like deep into it till like January of 2017.
Okay. Well, so when the PS3 was released, they released Resident Evil 5 simultaneously with it.
Okay.
And
It
I
was like
went.
the box sets, right?
Well, I didn't even get the box set. I just bought like we spent like $1,000. It was stupid. We went and
on a
that we
PS2,
probably
right?
shouldn't have, but it's fine. On a PS3, we went to Lexington and we bought the PS3. We bought 2 controllers. We bought the charging cable, and we bought Resident Evil 5. And I took it home and plugged it all in and played through the first like 40 minutes of it that night because I was so excited to get to play 5. So I have a lot of love for 5 too. Have you played 5?
I'm playing it right now. I just got to chapter 4.
Have you had the big
4-1.
village fight with the executioner and stuff yet?
Oh yeah, I'm way past that.
Okay.
I just got to like a little underground city or whatever.
Yeah.
We just got done killing that doctor on the boat.
Oh, okay. So you're a ways down there then. So you're in kind of the marshlands and stuff, right?
Yep.
Okay. See, I
And
liked
Resident-
what it.
I was
Sorry.
gonna say, and Resident Evil is like the start of the Biohazard War, wasn't it? If I'm not mistaken.
Kind of. 5 was where. See, I almost think of Resident Evil in trilogies. Like 1, 2, and 3 all took place during the Raccoon City stuff, and you had the spin-offs from that era. 4, 5, and 6 were all kind of the bioterrorism trilogy, I guess I would call it. You know what I mean? And of course, like 7, 8, and I guess 9, or if they continue doing kind of the same thing they've done with 7 and 8 for 9. But like I enjoyed 4 and 5 and 6 because it kind of dealt with like you had the Raccoon City incident and you had this established, biohazard issue, but then there was also, obviously people are going to want to do terrible things with that, and I liked that 5 kind of took that to a new level. 5 felt like 4 in terms of gameplay and the style, but it was a very different setting, being in Africa and kind of dealing with that kind of stuff, and I kind of dug that about it. It was different, but it's still tied into the rest of it in a really cool way, I don't know. I enjoyed 5 quite a bit.
Did you make it seem like it felt more worldwide, kind of? Because I know Resident Evil 4 is still like outside of the U.S., but this one just kind of like pretty much solidified the fact like this is going to be a global bioterrorism kind of thing that's going to be destroying the world pretty much. Like this is way bigger than Raccoon City now.
And that's kind of a double-edged sword, and I'm glad you made that point because it's like, in a way, people liked Resident Evil because the Raccoon City thing felt isolated and claustrophobic and like you were trapped in this area. I mean, you had 3 main timeline video games that essentially took place on the same night, or I know the mansion incident didn't take place on the same night, but what, a week or 2 before? Yep. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you have to remember, a ton of the entries in this game take place within 2 weeks of each other. Like, literally. And then 4 and 5 and 6 kind of were the ones that felt very sequel-esque. Like, okay, this is a much bigger global thing. And I think a lot of people didn't like that. They didn't like the fact that it felt like more of a global threat of like pandemic and viruses and all that stuff. And, it was 5 was very doomsday, especially, I don't want to spoil the end of the game for you. I assume Wesker's the main villain of the game.
Yeah, that's the thing about the series is like I pretty much know like most of what happens and what goes on. It's just I want to get that experience of getting to see it for the first time.
Do you know how 5 ends?
Boulder Punch.
Boulder Punch. Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't for some reason when I first played it. That wasn't
a rocket
stupid.
launcher too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 2 rocket launchers.
Launcher.
2 rocket launchers, because Chris and Sheva both had rocket launchers. I don't know, whatever. But the Boulder Punch thing wasn't stupid the first time I played the game, and then every time I went back and played it again, I was like, that's stupid as hell. I was like, the boulder that's the size of a a one-story building, and Chris is just like rolls, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. To be fair, whoever animated that game, they made Chris's arms like
Massive.
freaking cinder blocks, man. He was huge in that game.
He reminds me a lot of John Cena.
Yeah.
That is true.
Chris Redfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like right now, I haven't played through 6. Like I'm kind of taking my time with 5 because I just I don't hear much good stuff about 6. I hear it's very the word I hear a lot is Michael Bay.
I don't mind that.
It's very Call of Duty meets Resident Evil.
No, is it though?
Yeah, I think they tried to do the best of both worlds. Like my dad,
like such a Capcom game though. It seemed like how can I say? It was like very like third person shoot 'em up, which I agree. It is definitely a shoot 'em up kind of game, but I gotta say I got like Lara Croft kind of vibes from it and whatnot. You know, that type of 3-person shooters. I didn't really get Call of Duty, and I mean I was introduced to Umbrella Chronicles, so it was the same tempo as Survivor. If you think about it, it's just you had the Wii, and it was technically as VR, I guess, because that was their attempt to it. But then I started. The next one I played was Resident Evil 6. I really jumped into the lore of it. So I liked it, but I'll be happily to defend it if you guys care to. So,
bro, I feel bad for anybody who got introduced in for 6 because they were probably like, "What is going on?" Like, there's so much that I think that's the problem with 6. 6, I don't think is a bad game or a bad story, but 6A, the gameplay was very different. It was there's explosions happening and there are 6 different kinds of monsters chasing you, and I mean there's literally one point where you're playing as Leon crashing an airplane. Like, it's just whack, and there's a lot going on. Like, one minute you're playing as Leon and whatever her name is, Helen or something, Hella, I don't remember. I don't know. I forget her name. But like one minute you're playing as Leon and you're in Washington, D.C. And then the next minute you're playing as Chris and his BSAA team and you're in China. And then the next minute you're in like Antarctica and you're playing Wesker's son and Rebecca Chambers. And then these two meet, but the other doesn't. And then at the end of the game, they all meet. And it's just like, there's a lot of story that they're trying to tell at once. It sounded cool, but it's very complicated. You got to
choose. You got to choose which storyline you can choose first. You can do Chris, or you could do Leon, or then you could do Ada. Well, Ada was like at the very end because that was like a DLC-ish kind of thing. Or you could do Wesker's son. Like, it was pretty.
Ada was still in the game though. I mean, she was still a main character.
Yeah, she was. But then y'all at the when you finish the game, you ended up get to play as Ada Wong. You get to see how she contributes to the story, and I was like, this is really cool. Like, I enjoyed it, and I liked how they all weave together. And in the one of the options in the game, you had like the cool little thing where you could watch the cutscenes, and it showed like each character storyline that you played and how it connected with one another. And I was like, that's pretty cool. I enjoy this. This is like the most huge cohesive story I've ever seen. That being said, the mechanics, they had to do a lot, like from fighting zombies to shooting zombies to flying planes to driving tanks to running from giant monsters. Like, there's a lot of mechanics that went into it, and I'll admit it was a little wonky at times. But I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, it was just really really expanded. It was like worldwide. I didn't really see a game of that magnitude, so it just kind of set the stage as like, oh shit, Resident Evil is like pretty legit. Like, it's like worldwide. It's like this whole big old zombie outbreak, war, conspiracy kind of thing. I was like, I vibe with this, and so I was just like, I was all for it. Granted, I did come from the Mila Jovovich Resident Evil, so I mean, like, I'll say this: when you watch that and then you play 6, you're like, okay, I can see it sets a tone for like what you're expecting. So then when you do play like Resident Evil like 4 and 5, and you're just like, this is really slow pace, I guess, or something like that. So I don't know. That was just how I was back then.
I know my brother. He was brings up this one specific section. Apparently, Leon and a bunch of people are like in a bus or something, and the bus like tumbles down the mountain, but they're all like perfectly fine, I guess.
Oh yeah, I remember that. It was like a slow motion, and then they have to like defend a group of people in a church or whatever. Yeah, it was pretty. I mean, it was good.
There are some things that you can just kind of look past as like it'd be the video game equivalent of like a movie shut up and eat your popcorn moment, like Chris punching a boulder. Like I'm like, maybe the dude's got strong knuckles. Like I don't know, but there are moments in 6 where I'm like, they should have died. Like Leon somehow taking control of the airplane and crash landing it in the middle of Hong Kong. Yeah, bro would have died. Like there's no way. And it's not like he fell from like a low angle. Like dude fell out of the sky and crash landed. I mean, he's not a pilot. He's, whatever. It's just it's kind of funny.
Oh yeah, I do remember that scene and whatnot.
Yeah. Now it was cool when they all came together at the end, when all the stories finally like kind of met. I remember the thing that got me about the Resident Evil 6 trailer was seeing Leon and Chris point their guns at each other when they fight over Ada at the end, because obviously Leon's trying to save Ada, Chris is trying to arrest Ada. And when I saw them fighting at the trailer, because the trailer ends with Leon and Chris pointing their guns at each other, and I remember I was like, trying to break my heart here. Like this is my boys, and they're pointing guns at each other. Like what is this?
They're like the beginning bros. Like what do you mean?
I know,
here, guys.
Yeah. So.
I don't know. Resident Evil 6 is there for me. It's definitely up there for me, at least in the franchise.
I honestly wondered, Austin, if they were going to remake 5 and 6 just because like they don't seem that old to me. But they already said they're going to start working on 5, so I was like, oh, okay.
All I can say without spoiling it, yeah, the way that 4 ends,
I've seen it.
Yeah, they're definitely in the music too. Like they're definitely going to remake it, but
yeah,
I hope they more focus on 9, because I mean, we really don't know anything right now about Resident Evil 9.
Yeah,
it's like very like almost hush hush right now.
See, after 6, I wonder what they're gonna do with 9, because after Resident Evil 6, I had in talking to Miguel and talking to my dad, I was like, they're kind of running out of options here. They almost have to go back and do something very different, which is the route they went with what they did with Resident Evil 7. Or they almost have to do the Walking Dead thing, and like the apocalypse does happen. Like there is the like kind of like the Paul W.S. Anderson approach with the movies, where like there is a global pandemic and it does wipe out most of humanity kind of thing. And it's like that kind of thing, like because Resident Evil 6 was so big and it was on such a global scale. I mean, Miguel and I have talked about this. If you remember, Austin, have you seen the live action trailer for Resident Evil 6, the No Hope Left thing?
I guess I didn't know there was one.
Dude, you'll have to go watch it. They put out a live action teaser trailer for Resident Evil 6. And it's I forget all of what it says.
It was like depressing, man.
It was very depressing. It was very like the scenes we saw at the beginning of COVID, when cities are shut down and like things are boarded up and people are wearing masks, and like it was, there's a classroom and this teacher's got all of her kids huddled in the corner and she's looking over her shoulder, and there's like banging on the door. It's like military vehicles and like different cities around the world kind of in shambles, and people boarding up shops and with masks on and stuff like that. And it's the narration is like, our weapons failed and they there was nothing left, we couldn't stop it or whatever. And then he finally says there's no hope left, and it cuts back to somebody spray painting no hope left, and then the no hope left turns into the 6, like Resident Evil 6. And I was like, that is the coolest teaser trailer I've ever seen, bro. Like that was sick. So but I was kind of like, the fact that it's on such a big scale, you would almost like I just felt like they had to either go back and change things, like just completely chart a new course, which is fine, or it was like, okay, it's time to do the apocalypse, like the zombie apocalypse type thing. And that would be a scary ass apocalypse. with all the monsters and stuff, because it's not even just zombies you have to worry about. Like, no thanks.
Yeah, no. Out of all the apocalypse, this is the one I'm good. I will
Yeah.
peacefully go at that point. Like, you don't.
There were a lot of people that were like, which zombie apocalypse would be worse, The Last of Us or The Walking Dead? And I was like, Resident Evil would be 10 times worse than either of them. You know?
Yeah, I mean, like, the zombies, at least you can, like, get away from, especially if it's
Right.
The Walking Dead zombies. Which,
Yeah.
if you got to, like, Train to Busan zombies or, like...
Yeah, 28 days later.
28 days later, Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, no hope. I'd be dead.
Dude, 28 days later, I'd probably just end myself. I'd be like, I'm good. I don't need to try.
They're like, because they're like rabid dogs, but they're just humans.
Yeah. It's like rabies zombies. It's like psycho, like they throw up blood and shake and like slam up against you and don't have control over their body, and ugh, it's weird. That movie scares me.
Yeah.
It's definitely a fearful movie.
Right. Yeah, I mean, for me, I guess I like the direction they're going right now. I like how we're not really focused on like a virus, but like this time around we're focused more on like a mold that kind of affects people in a different way. That's definitely a thing I've liked about these last two mainline games is what they're doing with the mold and how it affects certain people. And I guess I don't know. Do either one of you know kind of like what happens in Village at all?
No.
Loosely, yeah. I essentially know kind of what happens, but
okay. Because the mold basically is fixed by like who the main villain is in this game. Her name is Mother Miranda. Has a little bit of a history with somebody from the original Resident Evil timeline. So I like how that kind of ties in, and essentially she kind of helped.
It's Spencer, right?
Yeah, Oswald Spencer.
Yeah.
It's like her protege, like because they meet in, I think it's Antarctica or something. They meet, and while he was walking around the village, we had the umbrella logo. So that's how he got the idea to make that this logo and all that. So, and even to make the T virus and all that. So I like how with 8 it turns back around and kind of starts us back from the beginning. And
yeah,
at least at this point, at least for me, full circle with the canon timeline.
Are we getting into like a whole prequel-ish kind of thing with Resident Evil 7 and 8? Is that what's happening?
Well, it's not necessarily prequel, but it kind of fills in some things that we didn't necessarily know. It just kind of builds on this. This franchise is masterful about building lore and building story. Like, even when you think there's no more story to build, like we've already treaded on that, like it still does more. Like even Lost in Nightmares with Resident Evil 5, which was kind of like the side story thing, similar to like how Resident Evil 4 had separate ways and all that stuff. Did you play Lost in Nightmares?
No, I haven't yet. I'm gonna wait till I get through the whole game and give it a try.
Well, I don't want to spoil that for you either.
Okay.
But there's something that happens with Wesker that it's kind of like, oh, like that kind of like explains a lot of like what happened, after Raccoon City and kind of before Resident Evil 4. Lost in Nightmares is still it's Chris and Jill, but it takes place in between Raccoon City and Resident Evil 4, and it kind of sets the stage for why Wesker is involved in Resident Evil 4, essentially.
Okay.
And kind
is that kind of in one of the cutscenes we get in the game, or
kind of? Yes, it fills in some of the cutscenes in the game with what happens, because it shows Spencer in the game, right?
Yeah, he's like, I think he's like in a wheelchair.
He's
or
old.
something.
He's in a wheelchair. Yeah, that like, and it's something between Wesker and Spencer that kind of sets the stage for the events of 4 and 5.
Interesting. Because I like almost how all three. I guess I don't know with 6, so I guess you guys could fill that in for me. But like, I like how each, I guess essentially trilogy, as you worded it earlier. Each trilogy kind of has their own little like
theme
virus or whatever. Like,
yeah.
You got the T virus in the original trilogy, and then you got the Las Plagas in at least 4 and 5. I don't know what it is in 6. I don't know if it's
6 is a combination of things. It's a combination of them, which is another thing that makes 6 weird. It's like it's a combination of
Las Plagas
the
and the T
Plaga,
virus, and then they unleashed a new
because
virus
5 was
in
Ouroboros.
China. And
Oh
5?
yeah, the
Yeah.
Ouroboros virus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure, like, because I know at the end, like, they did end up unleashing the virus again. I just don't know if it was the same T virus or if it was like another variant. Like, I wasn't really totally following, but I remember
There's a
that was like
ton
the
of
whole
viruses
thing.
at this point.
There really was.
We started
really
simple with the
was.
T virus and the G virus, and then we went crazy, and suddenly there were a million viruses.
Right?
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
it goes from viruses to parasites to mold.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Which is cool in a way. It still all fits in with the biohazard pandemic-esque themes. You know what I mean? It's cool. Global health.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, for sure.
In a way, this entire franchise is just about global health. That's all it is.
you sure have an interesting way of showing it.
Yes, they do.
I think
This
it's
is
the
what
C
happens
virus.
if we're not careful.
I looked it up. I think it's the C virus because they unleashed it in Washington and then they unleashed it in I think China or Tokyo, if I'm not mistaken. And that was what was unleashed. That was what Leon was out trying to find out because some like defense administrator or whatever was like low key like unleashing it across the nation and then trying to do it over the world kind of thing. And I was just like, this is dope. And then like I guess when it came to Wesker's son, he ended up being like, you know, having some sort of aid to the whole virus. I don't know. I don't want to. If you don't want me spoiling the whole game for you, let me know. I'll keep that as vague as I can.
That's totally up to you, man. I mean, either way, I'm gonna get to it no matter what. But
I gotcha. Well, I think with Wesker, I think he was like they wanted to use his blood to like make a vaccine, and that's where it all came down to. I think where like whether his blood was going to be the reason to cure literally everything, like TG and C virus and everything else under the sun. But then at the end of the game, it just ended up being like him being like a mercenary and him taking out those toad zombies or whatever. Do you know what I'm talking about, Brad? Like those toad zombies. I don't know.
Are you talking about the ones in China towards the end of the game?
Yeah.
They were weird. Six was a weird game, I must say. It was odd.
It really was.
It did a lot of weird things. But it was cool, but it was weird.
That's kind of how I feel right now with like 5. Like 5 is easily like the most, weirdly to say it, the most interesting of all the Resident Evils I played because
it is.
It's so just completely different from what I'm used to playing with these games now. But I mean, it is still fun. It's definitely frustrating. I know there's basically what the chainsaw women from 4. I know we get kind of a variant of them in 5, and I can't tell you how many times I died.
Chainsaw women, yeah. Are you talking about the twins?
It's hard.
Is that what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Oh man, they brought the twins back in this new game.
Yeah, I saw that too, man.
My God, they are no.
Yeah, it's pretty sick.
No.
It's funny. 5. There was I don't know if it's like that with. Well, I had 2 versions of 5. I had the original version of 5, and then I got the gold edition of 5 when it came out. And at least in the gold edition, you got I think it unlocked. What did it unlock? It unlocked infinite ammo for something if you beat Resident Evil 5 in 5 hours. So my brother and I sat down, and I beat 5 in less than 5 hours. I beat it in like 4.5 hours.
Jeez.
It was dope. It was cool. Which I had played it through multiple times before then, but like it was just like it was kind of one of those things. It's like, all right, if we're gonna do this, we got to do it. Like we just got to sit down and go. And there was a lot of running past zombies and getting out of there, just getting to the cutscene, get to the cutscene, get to the cutscene, get to the cutscene. But you know, it was fun. I had a lot of fun with 4, 5, and 6.
The thing with 5, I think one thing I definitely know I'm not big on. I'm not big on the whole like the co-op thing because
I wasn't either.
To me, like I play Resident Evil honestly to get that horror, to get that fear of like I'm gonna run out of bullets or whatever, or I'm at very low health, I gotta go somewhere. Like the fact that there's somebody there who can either give me some ammo or heal me at all times, like to me, that just really takes the horror out of what I love about these games. And I don't like Sheva at all, to be completely honest. I'm not the biggest fan of her character. The fact too that she's just constantly talking to you the whole.
She is, and I found myself in moments like it's not bad when you're playing with someone else. Like usually I would play as Chris and my brother would play as Sheva, and it's not bad when you're playing it like as multiplayer, but when you're just letting like the computer play Sheva's part, it's so annoying because like the executioner moment, like I'm trying to shoot at the executioner, but meanwhile computer Sheva is also standing directly in my line of sight, also trying to shoot, and I'm like, get out of the way, like you're in the way more than you're helping me here. And then she dies and then I die, and it's like, okay, well that would have been solved if you would have gotten out of the way while I'm trying to shoot at him, but.
Yeah, it's not on the same level, but it's almost like Ashley from the original RE4. Like,
yeah, that was kind of there were some glitch things with Ashley that were kind of annoying too,
I hated just hearing her scream, man. That's the thing they definitely improved on in the remake, is she feels like a legitimate human being, a legitimate like character, actually trying to help out Leon, and she's not sitting there, help, Leon! Like,
yeah, you're not in the middle of doing something over here, and then you have to run back over and save Ashley, and then you go back to do the same thing, and then she screams again, and you have to run back and save Ashley. It's just like a constant, like, holy crap.
Yeah. This game, like, it's easier to get to her, and you can actually still see her and just shoot the guy who's carrying her away. But yeah,
I know that could probably get annoying.
Listen, there was a moment in the original Resident Evil 4. It's the moment where Luis and Leon and Ashley are in the old house and they are mobbed by the villagers. Is that in the remake?
Yes.
That's like one of my favorite moments. Like as soon as they see all the torches and it's just like all sides they're being closed in on, and they start like shoving the chairs up against the doors and stuff. That's one of my absolute favorite moments in the original Resident Evil 4. So cool.
It is. In this one, it's a very, very tense sequence. Like they ramp up the tension and the horror so much in this one. That's why personally I do put it above the original, because I never was fully scared playing the original Resident Evil 4. Like this game, like legitimately like got under my skin at times, because they ramp everything up, especially the regenerators.
I heard that was like one of the more annoying evil bosses in Resident Evil 4, right?
Don't get me started on regenerators, bro. You know what's creepy? It's like you can tell when one is around even by walking in a room, because you just hear like
that's
like you just hear that, and like it's just like that's creepy and weird. Like, as soon as you enter a door and you hear that, it's like, all right, I'm pulling my gun out right now.
I don't know why the first time I heard that, for whatever reason I thought it was the wolf earlier on in the game. I'm like, oh, maybe he's like scared of something, and then you turn that corner.
It's panting.
And then you see the regenerator, and you're like, holy shit, get the hell away from me.
Well, and the regenerators are bad enough, but then they had to throw in the ones with the spikes that like poof out like a blowfish, and it's just like, come on, like it was bad enough the first time. I don't need one that spikes you too, if you get too close to it.
They brought them in too. It's a great game.
What about the spin-offs? Are you much of a fan of all the spin-offs?
I played the first chapter of Revelations 2. I don't really remember it very much, but I remember that being co-op, and I remember playing that with my sister because it was like a free demo or something. So we played it. I didn't really know. Again, that was kind of around when I was getting back into Resident Evil with 7. But other than that, no. I know there's like Operation Raccoon City, which I know a lot of people like
Love that
Dis.
one. I loved it. I thought it was a pretty good idea. But I guess a lot of people like. I guess what I like, people don't like apparently in the fandom. That's what I learned. So
Hey man, you be you. You like what you like. Trust me, I know. I'm a Star Wars fan. I know what it's like.
yeah, yeah, it's tough. It's tough out here in the streets. No.
Yeah, yeah, I
I
understand.
the first of the spin-offs that I had played was Outbreak. And Outbreak was really. Have you played Outbreak? At least the original one. I think there's two of them. There's Outbreak Files 2, and then there might be a Files 3. I don't know.
Hmm.
I think it's just File 2.
I can like see the cover, but I know I haven't touched it, unfortunately.
So Outbreak, um, the cover for the original Outbreak, I think, was a gun, and
Yeah.
it's like you see the reflection of a zombie in the gun, and then there's the Raccoon City sign behind it.
Yes.
So what made Outbreak cool was Outbreak. Like we get Resident Evil, and we get 2 and 3 where we see it from Jill's perspective, and we see it from Leon's perspective, and we get Nemesis in there, and we kind of get it from the main character's perspective. What was cool about Outbreak was it was literally just a group of random people in Raccoon City. And you kind of see them having to deal, like random people who aren't cops and aren't special agents and aren't like, people that are trained fighters, like just normal people trying to survive, which is kind of cool. Like Outbreak, when it starts, it's got the coolest opening sequence, dude. Like the opening credits for Outbreak, it's essentially, it's cool how it sets it up because it shows you, it opens on a rat running through a sewer, and there's this really, really like haunting music playing. And it's really like sad emotional music. It's very well done. But there's a rat running through a sewer, and you start to hear gunfire. And as this music is playing, you start to see like bullets dropping, and there's rats running around inside of the sewer, whatever. And it finally cuts, and you're seeing Umbrella agents shooting at Tyrant. At the Tyrant. So it's like it's kind of tying in like different pieces of it, and it's it's showing the Tyrant killing the Umbrella agents and things like that, and the rats kind of running around, and then it finally moves up through the sewer, and you exit to the streets of Raccoon City, and it opens on this bar, and literally Outbreak starts. It's this group of people sitting in a bar when the Raccoon City outbreak begins, and then you're playing as them throughout the game, and you can trade back and forth between the characters, and it's cool. It's got the fixed camera angle thing, which I don't like, but Outbreak is a very atmospheric, scary game. It's pretty cool. I remember playing Outbreak quite a bit.
That sounds like that is something I've been wanting from Resident Evil. Like I would rather see. Don't get me wrong. Like I like Leon, Claire, Chris, all them guys. They were what make Resident Evil so good. But that is something I've always wanted to see was like just regular people and how Raccoon City or all the other stuff that happens in other games, how it affects them as just
Yeah.
people.
I mean, the purpose of Outbreak is you're literally trying to escape Raccoon City during the outbreak. Like that's the the point, and that game ends when the nuke, and some of them escape and some of them don't. But
makes it pretty all that more interesting, to be honest, because I think my favorite game that I played so far that reminds me of Resident Evil was Dead Space, and there was another spin-off which I forgot what the name what the name was, but it was pretty much the same premise of like, lost in, they're in a ship that's pretty much overran by these alienistic zombies or whatnot, and they're trying to like get out. And then Resident Evil 2 takes place on a moon base, and the spinoff takes place during the moon base missions. And I remember it was just normal people that were just trying to get out alive, and I always thought that was really interesting because obviously the character that played in Dead Space was very much just already supernatural, superhero-ish kind of vibes, and it was really cool. Obviously really, really neat, but the atmosphere was there. But it would have been really cool to see just normal people trying to escape such a dreadful moment and their time. So yeah, I think File. You said File 2 was the name of the game.
Well, there
Brad?
was Resident Evil Outbreak, and then there was Resident Evil Outbreak File 2.
Yeah,
So I don't
I
remember if
think
there
I
was
would
a
enjoy
File
those.
3 or
Yeah.
not.
I might actually have to pick that. Because we have there's a game store we have here, and we have a whole bunch of like older games. I think that's one of the games they actually have there.
Oh, nice.
I might have to go pick it up. Because I know there's a town like 3 hours away from me I go to, and I know they have the original three Resident Evils there. And, whew, they want like well over $100 for each of them.
Jesus.
Yeah. There was just 2 of them, and they're set during the events of Resident Evil 2 and 3. So during the Outbreak, yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. Well, that's pretty cool. Do you think they'll end up doing a remake of all the spin-offs, or do you think they're only going to want to do the main anthology of it?
I think they're only going mainline. I know a lot of people right now. I know they really want Code Veronica. That's like the big one that I know people are really like hammering for and they want to see because apparently for them it's like one of the better Resident Evils. But that's one I haven't heard much about either. Personally, is Code Veronica.
Yeah, I don't really know much about the Code Veronica, to be honest. Brad?
I had it, and I had it, and I don't know if I ever beat Code Veronica, honestly. I had played through some of it. It's a fan favorite for a lot of people, though. A lot of people are really, really rooting for them before they remake Resident Evil 5 to remake Code Veronica, because that's after the events of Resident Evil 4.
Interesting.
So there's a lot of people that are kind of rooting for that. Yeah, I just looked up on Wikipedia. So Outbreak, the other thing that made Outbreak really popular with people is that it was an actual online multiplayer like thing, which was interesting.
Cool.
You know,
Yeah.
I know for PS2 that was probably kind of an interesting thing to do, but like it which the servers are shut down now. You can't do it. Which you have the single player option, which is I only ever did it on single player. But it's one of those things where it gives you scenarios, and you have to make like the game changes based on your choices and what you choose to do and what characters you choose to play and things like that. So it's definitely a cool one to check out if you like the creepier atmosphere and kind of that trapped feeling. It feels very claustrophobic. Like there's nowhere to go. Like at one point when the zombies start breaking into the bar. It's like you're trapped. You've got nowhere to go, and you finally find the key and get up to the second floor, and you can get out. But even like once you get out onto the streets in Raccoon City, there's police barricades, and you can't get out anywhere. It's cool. It's very atmospheric.
Okay. I'll definitely have to check it out.
Yeah, like that definitely sounds, like I said, way up more my alley than like, again, unfortunately, like RE4, RE5, all the more action-based games.
I can see why. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I will give credit though to Resident Evil 4 because I mean, it honestly like kind of spanned the whole generation of video games. Anyway, I mean that over the shoulder, that so many things, so many different games. Ironically enough, Miguel brought one up, the Dead Space games. I mean, that's
and that's like my favorite out of the over the shoulder 3-person horror based games. It definitely is because I remember playing that, and I played it on because it was like a free option you got on the Xbox Pass. You know what I'm talking about? And like I downloaded it and I was like, well, this looks interesting and whatnot. So I tried it and I was like, I remember when Brad was talking to me about Resident Evil and stuff like that. I mean, I did enjoy Resident Evil, but I was like, dog, you really gotta check out Dead Space. It is wicked. It is all sorts
I've never played it.
All sorts of dreadful. So many good things that I saw with Dead Space. Sad to hear that it only did like 3 installments, but I really want to play the remake. The remake looks dope, or the remastered version, I guess was what it is. But yeah, I would love to play the remastered version.
Yeah, my buddy Ethan, he's in the midst of playing that, and he said it's fantastic so far. I don't know how far he is, but he is definitely, he loves his horror games. Like every day he's like messaging me a new one. He's like, "Oh, hey, you gotta check this game out." I'm like, "Dude, I still got like 10 more that you just sent me like 3 days ago. I gotta check out still."
Yeah. So I'll say this in regards to like since you played 7, are you getting like Outlast vibes, except for the fact that you actually get to shoot back? or have you played Outlast?
Oh yes, I played Outlast.
Okay, yeah. And I kind of get that vibe with Resident Evil 7 because just of like the first person horror based thing, except the only difference is like you can actually shoot back and you're not just like left dead with a fucking video camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that is the thing I do like about Outlast, because like when I first played that, like that was terrifying.
It was same here. I played it with my friend Chris, and when we got through, like it was like we were sneaking into the mansion, and then we got the camcorder, and we were just already up and go, and we got to the guy with the giant old scissors, and he's chasing us. Like I did not like that feeling at all of like having to choose a place to hide, and then he ends up just still finding you, and you have to go find somewhere else. And, like you can't do nothing except hide and run away.
There's one of the games he showed me. There's a game where you're a patient and you're literally stuck in a wheelchair.
Oh
And
no!
it's basically
Oh.
Outlast. Like these monsters are like hunting you and chasing you, and you're just in a chair. So you just gotta freaking roll away, and they are on your ass the entire time.
Oh man, that is
That's kind of
frightful.
scary.
Yeah, I always want the question. I hope they do it someday. Is do Outlast in VR?
Yes.
Mm.
Oh my god, that would be wicked, wouldn't it? And like
Nuts.
the only way you could like have like the night vision or the lights is like you have to bring the controller to your face so it goes
Yeah, and
up.
actually like
Yeah.
hold it like that.
Yeah, that would be wicked, man. Well, now was that wheelchair game in VR? Is that what I'm seeing right now?
It might be. I don't. I guess I'm not really sure. I'm sure you have the option. I'm sure you can play it standard or in VR.
Mm-hmm. Is
Like
it
I
called
just.
Deadness?
Yeah, Deadness.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
I see what you're talking about. That looks interesting, dog. Oh
Yeah.
no, I'm good.
Did you
having
play
that
The
in your
Last of Us?
face? No.
Me?
Yeah.
I got halfway through, and I just like fell off the game. But that's another game I want to really get back into, because I mean, obviously, I'm still 2 episodes behind on the show. Man, I'm so far behind on that show.
Mm.
But I've from what I've seen in the show, I love it very much. I love Pedro Pascal. He's
Yeah.
slowly becoming one of my favorite actors of all time. But
He's having his time. He's definitely having his
Yeah.
time. I'm all
Dude,
for it.
yeah,
I definitely recommend that you keep playing The Last. It's in my top 3 of all time.
top 3 of all time. So yeah, that's my buddy Ethan. That's his favorite game. Of
I
all
loved
time.
it.
So I know it's got like a really deep story. Obviously, I know about Sarah getting killed and all that, and obviously from the show. But there's just there's just things I haven't gotten to see, and I know of quite a few things that happened in The Last of Us Part 2. So I mean,
Yeah.
not looking forward to getting to that, because
There are some big things that happen in The Last
There's
of
some
Us Part
big
2.
things, yeah.
yeah,
There's a lot of controllers being broken in part 2.
Yes,
I'd
there
say.
were.
yeah. I just remember seeing like the outcry after that game came out and people got to that part. I was like, I mean,
That's why I'm ready. I'm so ready for season 2 to come out, because like whoever's going to be casting these people, they better watch out because their lives are about to change.
oh yes.
Yes.
It's gonna be nuts to see that actually come to life and happen.
I
I'm looking
know.
forward to it though. I am.
Yeah, I'm
My
too.
only thing
I'm
about
too.
the series though was that I wish that I understand why, but I wish they would have gotten to explore some more things that the game did. Which I mean, I get it. Listen, speaking of, we haven't even talked about this at all. What are your thoughts on the Resident Evil movies? Either Welcome to Raccoon City or the Paul W.S. Anderson, Milla Jovovich films.
So like 3 years ago, I watched all the Paul W.S. Anderson movies for the first time. Like I binged them all on a whole weekend.
It was fun, right?
Yes, huge guilty
I bet
pleasure.
it was a fun weekend.
Yeah.
I went through a lot of popcorn. I mean, a lot of popcorn. I'm like, man, I need
Mm-hmm.
another bag here. Like, it's weird because when I first watched them, my favorite was Afterlife.
Yeah.
I liked Afterlife. Yeah.
I went back and I rewatched it, and I'm like looking around. I'm like, I liked this. This was my favorite of them all.
Yeah.
What the hell? Because it took me like 3 tries to try and actually watch the first one. I don't know what it was. Like I turn it on. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna watch it, and I get like 5 minutes in. I'm like, not feeling it.
I think the first one is my favorite. They're weird. If I had to rank them, I told Miguel this would be the easiest ranking we'll ever do on the show. Because, I mean, I assume we'll get to them on Purely and Simply Evil at some point. But it's literally like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, that's pretty much my ranking. Like, they got weirder as they went along. Like, I kind of felt like 1 and 2 were like, oh, I'm digging this. I feel it. Like, I'm with it. And then Extinction was cool. Afterlife was still pretty cool. Retribution, I was like, oh, okay. And then the final chapter, I was like, I'm here for the ride. That's it. Like,
Here for the ride.
You know, unfortunately, I didn't get to see the first 2 in theaters, but Extinction I saw in theaters, and I enjoyed them. The first one's pretty creepy. I must say, there are some genuinely creepy moments. The CGI when you get to the liquors, I'm kind of like, okay, that looks terrible, but there are some creepy. The zombies are done really well. Like they're when Rain and Alice and all of them are climbing on the rafters in the hive, and the zombies are all like reaching for them and stuff.
Yep.
There are some creepy, gross, nasty looking zombies in there. It's a creepy movie.
And I'll be honest, that hallway scene with the lasers, that
Yeah.
really like set the tone. Like that was like the most famous scenes in Resident Evil. So famous that they brought it back. And
They included it in the game.
Yeah, and in the game. So like, very surprised with how famous that scene has gotten. So yeah.
Yeah, I do like the film. For me, I'm a little all over with my ranking. Like my favorite's probably Apocalypse because it is
Apocalypse was good too.
The most like Resident Evil.
Right.
I mean, pretty obvious. My least favorite's the final chapter.
Yeah.
That one has the biggest blue balls I've ever seen in a movie because, like, you have this epic, all the big Resident Evil people up on top of the White House with all these bioweapons, and then the next movie, it's like, oh, they all died. Like, the hell you mean they all died? Show me. I want to see how it happened.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to do that.
And like, I guess what it was like they knew that Mila Jovovich was like going to be like the main character. But at the same time, they're like, well, we have to bring up the video game.
Yeah, that's the only thing I didn't like is like Leon and Chris kind of felt like an afterthought. Jill had a little bit more to do with it. Claire had a little. I mean, they was just kind of like, oh, there's Barry. Oh, there's Leon.
Oh, there's Carl.
Oh, that's Chris. Oh, okay. Like it was just kind of like they were just there.
I thought Chris was played by Eminem for a hot second because how closely similar they look. When he was in that box, I was like, they really got the real Slim Shady to be in this
Slim?
movie? I was like, dang, okay, impressive. So, yeah, I don't know.
Because this looks like a job for me, so everybody.
Yeah. But I'll say, Apocalypse definitely is like one of my favorite out of the entire franchise. Mm-hmm. Just because it felt... I've told Brad
Which did you say, Apocalypse?
Yeah, Apocalypse. That's Resident Evil 2.
That's 2. That's the Raccoon City outbreak, yeah.
That is. And I thought that was I still think that's my favorite one. Because I remember renting that movie like probably 2 or 3 times at a Blockbuster. Because I just loved it so much. It was like such a 2000 grunge kind of like vibe I was getting from it. And I was like all feeling it. Nemesis looked dope. I'd say probably like one of the better live action characters out of video games I've seen adapted into a movie. Would you guys agree?
I would highly agree. I just don't like of how they made Nemesis.
How they made him,
and who he ended up being, especially the ending. I'm like, dude, this was set up so beautifully, and you went.
What were you didn't like Matt being Nemesis?
I didn't mind it. It's just more of like she starts talking to him, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, okay, yeah.
That was a little odd. But the idea of it being Matt was kind of cool. Like there were so many moments. I don't know. The first one, looking back on it, I don't know. I think the first time you see the 2002 film, the original one, it's like, well, that was very different from the game. But then you really start to think about the little ways that it ties in. Like when he says put him into the Nemesis program, it's like, ooh. And then when you see Alice walk out and Raccoon City is abandoned, it's like, ooh. Like I love certain moments of that movie, you know? But yeah, Apocalypse was good too. I enjoyed both of them quite a bit. I enjoyed Extinction. I remember being really excited for Extinction. That was the first one of them I saw in the theater. I remember watching the trailer for Resident Evil Extinction for the first time, and every time it was on TV, being like, "Ooh."
Was it the scene where Mila was just fucking like engulfing the bird
in
with
flames?
Flames. I was
Yes, it was that one, and then it cuts to
I was
Resident
like,
Evil Extinction in
dang.
Black. I was like, "That's so dope!" Like, I love it,
Mhm.
dude. Million Man.
I just I love the whole time they're in Vegas, like how just
Yeah.
just the scenery. I love it.
Yeah, that whole scene in Vegas and like that new variant zombie, I guess it was like they're semi like cohesive in their thoughts, so they know what they're doing. Like that like those bald heads on those were like really scary to be honest, because it was like it looked more like less than like an outbreak, but more like a military attack. It made sense. They were like, okay, drop these zombies here or place them right here, and then when it's time to go, release them and just let them have at it. And
They're very
it
tactical.
seemed yeah very tactical in their way of going about it. But I'd say like with Extinctions, I thoroughly enjoyed it as much as Apocalypse, but I still put Apocalypse above Extinction because it got
I
to the
would
whole
too.
cloning kind of thing, and I was like, where are we going with this? I was like, I don't
Yeah.
really know where we're going with this.
The moment where they were trying to make the zombie put the blocks in the same shape blocks in Extinction, I was like,
What?
okay.
I'll say this: Mike Epps was funny in that
Okay.
movie. That's all.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I did like Mike Epps. I like when in Apocalypse when we first get introduced to his character and they're walking around in the high school, and that's when we get the dogs too. And it like he opens a closet and the skeleton falls out and he grabs it and he sticks the head of the gun in the eye socket of the skeleton. And he's like, "You crazy mother." Cool.
Yeah.
I love his scene where after Nemesis kills all the STARS members. That's right. You just walk away. Yeah, you don't want none of this. Like yeah, that's
no,
that's
yeah,
what it is.
that was pretty much. And like Mike Epps was with the STARS people, and then like Nemesis straight up was like stars, Mike Epps, stars, and just shredded all of them as he was just sitting there, and he was like, "Oh wow." Like that just proved like how dangerous Nemesis is. Like he straight up just like murdered this entire crew, but left Mike Epps because he wasn't the target. Like
Yeah.
that's a dangerous boy right there. That's a big boy. Yeah. So
I like that moment too when they first come up on when Alice is walking with Carlos and them and she realizes like what it is because he starts shooting. I forget who does he kill. Nemesis kills somebody. It's one of the STARS people.
Oh man, I can't.
It's been
remember.
years since I've seen Apocalypse, but he kills one of the STARS people, and instead of even trying to fight back, which Alice ends up fighting back, but like Alice like realizes that it's Nemesis, and she just goes, "Run!" Like she doesn't. She didn't even like try to fight. She just goes, "Run!" like don't even try. And then she jumps down and starts to fight him. But it's cool.
Well, that got me thinking. I was like, how does she know what Nemesis is? You know what I'm saying? Like out of nowhere, she's like, "Oh, I know who this is coming." Like, you know what I mean?
I don't know. Shut up and eat your popcorn, Miguel.
Okay, that's
she's
fair.
Alice and she remembers everything.
Everything.
And yeah, I have a guilty pleasure for Retribution. Actually, like the first time I watched it, I wasn't too into it, but I think my big praise for that man is that super liquor. Like that thing looks.
That's what I was about to ask.
Phenomenal.
I was like, is that the one where Leon and all of them are being chased in the car by the giant liquor?
Yep.
I remember seeing that for the first time, and I was like, oh.
That was like the selling point in the trailers too. It was like the super liquor is gonna be in this one. Yeah.
I think one of the big reasons I really like it though is you get a lot of Aliens vibes. Like you get because
Right.
at the beginning, you get like almost a traditional zombie movie. You get the other version of Alice. She gets killed. You end up finding this little girl later on. She has to protect her the whole time. So you get that
Mm-hmm.
Ripley and Newt kind of relationship
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Aliens. And I'll be honest, man, I love that fight scene between Alice and Jill at the end of the film. Like I
hmm
love it. It's not
Yeah.
big on the slow motion. I think that's my biggest problem with Afterlife.
I loved which one was it? I think it was it wasn't Jill. Who played forgot what her name was. When she dropped into the ice and then she was carried down by the zombies. I thought that was the
Oh,
most coolest scene I've saw in Retribution. What's her name?
Michelle Rodriguez's character.
Yes, yeah, Michelle Rodriguez
Rain.
character.
Rain.
Is it Rain? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that scene was so cool. Just like the empty black abyss, and then she's trying to swim out, but all of a sudden she's just completely pulled down by all these zombies. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
You're all going to die down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard
So
that one
wicked.
before. Man, I gotta get your guys' thoughts on Welcome to Raccoon City because I'll be totally honest with you guys. That's my favorite. Like it's a 4 out of 5 for me.
4 out of 5.
So this is where
Wow.
this is where I'm going to exit the show.
Oh wow!
I'm kidding. I
I can see
How do I put
where
this
he would say it's
delicately?
4 out of 5.
I understand. I don't blame you at all. I understand why hardcore Resident Evil people would think it's dope. I get it. But for me, I just felt like it was the most express laned telling of that story. At least the Paul, you can say the Paul W.S. Anderson films left out a lot too because they did, but it did kind of at least feel like I think I was okay with it because it did its own thing. It wasn't necessarily supposed to be a straight up adaptation.
Like they didn't
the
say like this
games.
was going to be like straight out of the video games. They straight
Right.
up just went into that movie and was like, "We're telling a whole new story. Get over it. Just enjoy it. Shut up." And
I
get your
think the
popcorn."
problem with my problem with Welcome to Raccoon City is that it feels like too much too quickly. Like it's like let's take 3 games worth of content and just slam dunk it in an hour and a half movie and we'll be there. And it just didn't. I don't know. There was something about the vibe that felt very off. It didn't feel Resident Evil to me. It felt I don't know. It felt different. I wasn't very wild about Welcome to Raccoon City, to be completely honest.
Yeah, because I went to it in theaters and I took my brother, and yeah, I know
He did
we
too.
left, and
Did
yeah,
we see it? We did.
he looked at me after the credits roll. He looked me dead in the eyes like that fucking sucked. I'm like, I liked it. He's like, I can see why you liked it, but I hated it. I'm like,
That's the thing is everybody who said they loved it, I was like, I get it. Like I understand because a lot of it was very faithful to the games. I understand. But it just it felt so quick. Like to me, I don't think we've ever reached Resident Evil's full live action potential. And that goes for this new TV show we did. That goes for the Paul W.S. Anderson stuff. That goes for Welcome to Raccoon City. I just don't like. We reported on it. There was a rumor a while ago. Who knows if it's true or not? That they're trying to adapt Resident Evil 4 into a film. But I was just like, why? Like, it's not the lore.
Oh yeah,
isn't
like they were gonna
there
like
yet.
Like it was gonna be a sequel to Resident Evil. The
I
Welcome
think
to Raccoon City sequel was gonna be a telling of Resident Evil 4, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know.
So they were gonna have the guy who played Leon in that then.
I
Yeah.
guess it just doesn't.
Did you like Leon in Welcome to Raccoon City? There you go. That's where I'm like, I don't like the direction that it went.
That's probably one of my biggest, because I will say, like, I didn't like how they tried to do the first and second game, because I mean they don't
They don't take place at the same. At least 2 and 3 take place at like simultaneously. Part 1 takes place like I think it's 2 weeks before the Raccoon City outbreak.
Mhm.
So like, why are we trying to shove all of that onto the same night? Because it's the events of Part 1 that caused the Raccoon City outbreak. So like, why? I don't know. Something about it didn't sit well with me. The way that they tried to combine it all. You know.
I think it was because like that's like the usual thing that happens with adaptations, is because like you could say like, oh, they could have just did the first game and told the story, but at the same time, like if they told the first game and it didn't land, then the whole franchise is over. So these movie studios, they're trying to like lay everything out there and be like, hey, this is what this game's about. Let us keep making more because it's great. So they had to throw like 3 games with so much story in half of the effort, and just like, hey, this is what all we could see if you give us a sequel, and then that's usually why we get so many adaptations that just seem so rushed, is because they don't know if like they're gonna get greenlit for a sequel, because they're like, well, we don't know if this movie's gonna work at all. So it's like, all right, let's just throw everything at the board plus the kitchen sink and see if it sticks. And if it sticks, I was like, cool, we get a sequel. But then we pretty much rush through everything else, so it doesn't make any sense. Like that logic doesn't really like hold any weight, and I always wondered about that, because I'll be honest, there's a lot of like adapted live action movies where I'm just like, they rushed the shit out of all of this, and they left so many good lore out. Like I'm like, come on, man. So
It felt very overly rushed, and I've always had an issue with the live action thing. Like Resident Evil, I feel like it could be the coolest movie or TV adaptation if you did it right. Like, just take your time. I think the fandom is there. Like, I don't think it's not gonna sell tickets. I don't think it's not gonna put butts in seats. Like, I think the fact that it says Resident Evil will get butts in seats. But I think there's a way that you do the mansion incident as one claustrophobic, dark, scary film. I mean, if you tied in the whole Bravo team, the helicopter crashing, and the other team going and being chased into the mansion by the dogs, and all of the stuff that happens there, you can make a really cool, scary movie. I feel like somebody had the idea for a fan film or something where it was like a short series or something, to do it like where there's a detective from Raccoon City that has to go up in the Arklay Mountains, and there's all of these weird, mysterious murders where people are being half eaten in their homes and stuff up in the mountains, and he's trying to kind of uncover that, and that's a prequel to the mansion incident. Like, there's so much lore and there's so much to do with it. It kills me that it always has felt so rushed, and that I feel like we've never actually taken the time to just tell one good story, rather than like what Welcome to Raccoon City did, where it's just like, let's shove all these different storylines together and just move on to the next thing. Like it's always Resident Evil in terms of its movies, live action movies. Like, I feel like it's always gotten ahead of itself. Like, it's like, slow it down. Tell one good scary story before we move on to Raccoon City, before we move on to 4 and 5 and 6. Like, just hold on.
Hold on.
I just think it'd be just do The Last of Us, man. Just make the whole series into just a television series. Just each season.
I'd be down for a TV series.
I was gonna say, Brad, would you be into that? Like, either of you.
I mean, just think about it. Like, 10 episodes each season. I mean, I think 8 to 10 would be good for, especially the first game. I mean, because there's so much going on.
And that's what I was going to say. Would you do it for like part 1 is season 1, part 2 and 3 is season 2? Like, would you do it that way?
That's probably how I would do it. Maybe even do 3 kind of on its own. Maybe have it like tie in somewhere to the second season somewhere. But to me, there's so much in the series that you can't do it in a movie. Like, I don't think with Resident Evil you're ever going to get it with a movie, because I even just sat down yesterday and I watched 2 out of the 3 animated movies, and I mean, those are kind of just one-offs.
Those are on their own.
They're good though. They're fun.
Mm-hmm,
they're not bad. Sure. Degeneration was okay. I think I liked, what the hell is it called?
I own
Damnation.
Degeneration somewhere. I actually just had that over here like yesterday. I think I put it back.
But because I watched Damnation, that felt more like just Resident Evil 4, but like in Russia. And,
Yeah.
I haven't watched Vendetta, but I know that there's another Resident Evil animated movie
Infinite
coming
Darkness.
out. That's a TV show. That's a Netflix TV
Is
show
it?
you're thinking of.
Oh yeah, you're right. What's the new one?
I
I think
wanna
the most
s-
recent one was Vendetta, isn't it?
That one's
Is
from
that-
No, there's another one coming out.
2017. I think it's like Death Island, something Island is all I remember from it. But it'll be the first time in all of
Death
Resident
Island.
Evil. Death Island. Okay, that is what it's called. To my knowledge, from what I've heard in this film, this will be the first time ever that Leon and Jill are ever going to be together and like interact with one another in the series.
Oh, cool.
That's kind of cool.
And it's actually the Jill from the new Resident Evil 3 remake, so I'm excited for that because I actually liked Resident Evil 3 remake quite a bit, even though it's only like a 4-hour campaign.
I just looked up the synopsis for Death Island. Says DSO agent Leon S. Kennedy is on a mission to rescue Dr. Antonio Taylor from kidnappers when a mysterious woman thwarts his pursuit. Meanwhile, BSAA agent Chris Redfield is investigating a zombie outbreak in San Francisco where the cause of the infection cannot be identified. The only thing the victims have in common is that they all visited Alcatraz Island recently. Following that clue, Chris and his team head to the island where a new horror awaits them. It's pretty dope.
I like it.
Resident
I like
Evil
it.
on Alcatraz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty dope.
I don't know. I think so. What is it about these animated shows that really capture the games as opposed to live action?
I think
What do
it's
you think
because
that
you
is?
can do a little more, I think, with
I agree,
animation. Because, like, ironically enough, what we were talking about earlier with all the weird stuff that happens in 6, with
Yeah.
Leon crashing the plane and the bus and everything. That's what I felt when I was watching Damnation, because Leon literally gets picked up by a tyrant and literally thrown into a concrete pillar, and he just, like, gets right back up. I'm like, shut the hell up! You'd be freaking dead and or paralyzed. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Your back would be the shape of a U. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Logic aside, it's because you can do more with animation. Like, weirdly enough, it was worded perfectly in one of my like previous podcasts I did a few years ago. If something like that would happen in an anime, you wouldn't even question it.
yeah.
So I think we were talking about Fast 9 because there's the scene where Vin Diesel hits the bridge or whatever, and he gets caught on that piece of the bridge, and he just like swings like Tarzan.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And I was like, that looks so stupid. And then one of the guys who was on, he's like, if that happened in an anime, though, you would not question that. I'm like, that's not the point, but you do have a logic.
It's a valid point. Yeah,
Dude, the Fast movies they're so absurdly dumb. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not.
Hey, Brad,
I've tried.
the same way you're with like the later movies of Resident Evil. I'm just here for the ride. I know. I'm waiting for the Vin Diesel family moment.
You're really here for
where he just
family.
Yeah, family. Family is the only currency when it comes to those films. And I'm always down to look for the next family moment. Because I think this one was like him like getting like barbed by 2 helicopters and he brings it down. I think that's his like family moment. It's like, you know what, can't hold me down. These helicopters can't hold me down with all this family.
I saw there was a meme where in The Last of Us when Ellie says, I'm not family, and Joel says, no, you're cargo. And he says, you keep going for family. It was like Joel says you keep going for family, and when it cuts back to Ellie's face, Vin Diesel's sitting in the back seat, and he's like,
Jesus.
No, man.
So
I haven't seen anything past 7. Like,
past 7.
I don't really care to see anything past 7.
Yeah, the franchise lost me, man.
It definitely has lost a lot of fan base. It definitely like left. It left after 3 or 4, which was Fast and Furious. So I'd say it probably left around that time because I'd say around Fast Five, it became more into like global heist or like international heist thing.
Yeah.
Like the whole crew came together, and like that. Surprisingly, like Fast Five is like the most well-rated movie out of the entire
It
franchise.
feels very Expendables at this point, where it's just like how many tough guy actors can we throw
Yeah,
into this thing?
because now you have Jason Momoa, the guy that plays Jack Reacher. John Cena is the most recent one too, out of
Yeah.
the last one.
Although
And
I will say I enjoyed Hobbs and Shaw. Hobbs and Shaw was fun. It's weird. It's like two big franchises that I kind of like the odd one out. Um, Fast and Furious don't really care much about the rest of them, but I do like Hobbs and Shaw. And then Star Wars. I've gotten crap for it before. Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars movie.
what
Oh,
do you
dude,
think of that?
you
Rogue One's a pretty solid solid addition to the
I know,
whole
but typically people are like compared to the Empire Strikes Back,
depends
and
though.
compared to all what I mean. But I'm like I don't know. Rogue One is the thing that got me to watch the rest of them again.
hmm
But the thing is, though, are you more of a casual fan?
Oh, I'm a very casual.
Very
I am
casual.
not a
Okay, because
hardcore Star Wars person.
okay, yeah, I'm the opposite. That's me right now.
He's
Like,
hardcore fan. Yeah.
oh
So, are
yes,
you excited for the news that's going on surrounding Star Wars with Ahsoka and Dave Filoni's Mandoverse
Is that how you
movie
say that? Is it
and
Ahsoka?
yeah.
Ahsoka? Yeah. How'd you
Okay.
say it? Ash Oka? Is that how you said it?
Me?
Yeah.
I thought it was like a Haska or something like that. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a Star Wars person.
Drug ayahuasca. But I was gonna ask because I just read I was keeping up with the reports on it, and I think they said something along the lines of it's gonna take several years after the events of Rise of Skywalker, and Rey is like rebuilding the Jedi Temple, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, Daisy Ridley came out. She's coming back to play Rey, and that's going to
hmm
be one of the newer films coming out. It takes place 15 years after the events of Rise of Skywalker. We also have one from James Mangold, who did Logan. He's going to be
hmm
doing a film about the very first Jedi and kind of how the Jedi start up.
That's
And
pretty
then
interesting. Yeah.
the Dave Filoni movie is supposed to be essentially the like end game of all the John Favreau, Dave Filoni things
hmm
like Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Ahsoka, all that stuff together.
I think that's the one that's like really like kind of revitalized the franchise after the new trilogy, I'd say, because like Dave Filoni and what John Favreau has done to like at least like seal up the holes into that sinking ship, I guess, after the original trilogies, from
Yep.
what the reviews it's been getting. Because I, for one, I mean, I wasn't particularly a fan of the new trilogy, but I mean, I didn't hate it. I mean, I was like, I could see why they would go this direction for sure. But
Is
I'm excited
Favreau
to
kind of
see.
becoming the Kevin Feige of Star Wars?
I
Him and Dave Filoni, they have such a rich love for the franchise that I don't know, they're just making projects that they love, and people are just like they're swooning over it, and that's cool. It's like James Gunn, like with how everyone loved him for Guardians of the Galaxy
Guardians.
because he just did something that he enjoyed. So
Yeah,
would I see him being like a Kevin Feige? I highly doubt it.
I'd say more Filoni because he's like head of
Mhm.
creative over at Lucasfilm
Mm.
right now. So I mean,
Yeah,
and he is technically quote unquote everybody uses the apprentice of George Lucas. So like he knows the lore, he knows what
Yeah,
Lucas wanted to
yeah.
do with the franchise. So I mean,
Mhm.
Do you have a favorite trilogy from Star Wars?
That should
The
just be the
original,
trilogy.
the prequel
I,
trilogy, the sequel trilogy.
I mean, if I had to rank them, I mean, original trilogy. I mean, you're never going to top the story,
Yeah.
the characters, everything in those. And then after
Mhm.
that, it would be the sequels. I do think the sequels as a whole is better as than the prequels as a whole.
Mhm.
The first two films are very difficult for me to get through.
They definitely are. But I would say in regards of like space opera, I'd say Revenge of the Sith definitely tops it for me
Oh
because
yes,
that really just culminates the entire like theme of what this franchise is, which is this huge space opera that has reveals, betrayal, action, romance, and adventure. Like everything is all wrapped up in one in that one, and it just sets the tones because, like obviously, Revenge of the Sith pretty much jumpstarts everything else that comes after, or it's the original trilogy, the Rebels, Bad Batch, Clone, like no, not Clone Wars, but like everything's going on with the Mandoverse and the new trilogy, like Revenge of the without that one, and that's like the prequels that everyone hated. If it wasn't for Revenge of the Sith, it wouldn't have, and it wouldn't have propelled Hayden Christensen's character, even though he was hated tremendously in like the second one, I think in Attack of the Clones.
Yep.
I think he really did redeem himself in Revenge of the Sith, and then people wanted him, but he didn't come back until like recently with
He came back to the Obi-Wan show.
yeah. So
I thought he delivered a good performance as Vader. Especially the final episode, like when he gets his face revealed and how he talks to Obi-Wan, like it's peak Star Wars for me right there.
Star Wars, yeah, I'd agree, and I think the Obi-Wan Kenobi series was definitely one that a lot of people in the fandom wanted so bad. I think that was like the most wanted series to come out of like the whole like the Star Wars franchise is being revitalized with like the whole TV show stuff going on, and I'd say like with Hayden coming back and playing as Darth Vader, I gotta say like he really knocks it out of the park of being Darth Vader. You really get to see the pain in his eyes and like the huge the amount of hatred he has for Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like Hayden really plays a great Darth Vader. So much so that he does not act like he's no longer Anakin. Same way like he said in the whole episode is like he's the one that killed Anakin. It's like that's true. Like the person I seen that mask is not Anakin Skywalker anymore. That is straight up Darth Vader that just wants to absolutely kill Obi-Wan right now. Like I felt that in that scene. I was like, wow, that was peak. That was peak storytelling right there. So
see, for me with Star Wars, when I was a kid, my dad liked them a lot, and he had the box set of them, and my mom and I was probably 6 or 7, maybe not even old enough to really appreciate it, but we threw in the first one, and I was like, this sucks. So we turned it off. And then of course I got a little bit older. I know it's strong words. I know. And then Rogue One was really the thing that made me go back and rewatch them all. But I saw Rogue One and I was like, that was a good movie. Like even without all of the prior knowledge, like I still enjoyed it a lot. And I went back and I rewatched them all and I was like, okay, I can appreciate them. Still not a massive fan, but I appreciate it. I like them. And I don't really remember the prequel trilogy all that much, to be honest. I remember the original trilogy. I remember the sequel trilogy. Couldn't really tell you what happened in the prequels. But I was if this tells you what kind of Star Wars fan I am, I was the guy that after The Last Jedi ended, I was like, that was pretty cool. And everybody around me was like,
yeah.
Oh, you'd be surprised. A lot of people actually like The Last Jedi as compared to The Rise of Skywalker with the direction that they ended up taking.
But people talk about The Last Jedi like it's like the biggest cinematic sin in movie history.
I'll say this though, I prefer the revelation of Rey ended up coming from a nobody family as opposed to being a Palpatine. I don't know how you feel about it. I was completely okay with Rey being a nobody because it would have pretty much been like Rogue One, where it's just like this group of ragtag nobodies that literally like changed the course of the Star Wars franchise, or propelled episode 5 with A New Hope, like 4, sorry, with 4, and like that was really cool. Like it was just this ragtag group of just nobodies that ended up changing the course of the Empire. But then they end up going like, nope, Rey has to be she has to be connected to somebody. Otherwise, what is this all about? I was like, well, no, like we did not know that Luke was the son of Anakin, of Vader's, until Empire Strikes Back. But we all come to know and love him with A New Hope. Like we loved Luke at the time, and halfway through Empire Strikes Back, we loved Luke. And then that's when we found out like he ends up being the son of Darth Vader. It was like, oh shit, that was a pretty good twist. But we already came to know and love him. But then when Rey came, it was like they set the tone of like, oh, what's her origin already? And we're like, well, now she has to be related to someone famous. Is it Obi-Wan? Is it like a relative of Anakin Skywalker, or is this just going to be Han Solo's kid, or like who knows? And then they ended up having to go with Palpatine, which was literally like the biggest slap in the face, I'd say, for a lot of fans in the franchise. I don't know if you would agree, Austin.
I mean, yeah, to a degree. I like the nobody angle. I do think it would have worked a lot better. Because even too, like with Snoke, because there were so many people who were like, "Oh, he's more powerful than Palpatine and Vader combined." I'm like, "Okay, this is cool.
Yeah.
Let's go." And then he gets killed in Last Jedi, and then Rise of Skywalker, he's just a clone. I'm like, what? Like the most mysterious character, like who you're almost labeling to be your big bad. He's just a clone.
And it ended up like doing full circle back to Palpatine. I would have much rather it be some other big bad, and then have Palpatine come back. Honestly, it didn't really make any sense for me.
I'm very mixed on the whole Palpatine thing, like because it kind of makes sense to a degree that it's Palpatine, because I mean, he did learn from Darth Plagueis of how to continue living after he gets killed. Mm-hmm. So to that degree, it makes sense. But I would also agree with you. I would rather have seen somebody new. Like I didn't want because obviously the Snoke theory is like, oh, it's an angry Mace Windu. I'm like, shut up, it's not Mace Windu. I mean.
Well, like I've not heard that theory. That's wild.
Oh yeah, that was one of them, because they're like, oh well, when he got hit by the lightning, it hit him in the head. He had the big scar there, and it's just, I'm like, shut up. That's no. But I had a lot of anticipation for Snoke, especially when you see him in The Force Awakens. Like,
yeah,
that's the thing, man. That movie sets up just honestly what could have been a phenomenal trilogy.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. But then with The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, they pretty much took like two big left turns, two big different turns in either direction. They were like, we're going this way, but then nope, we're going this way. I was like, whoa. Like you laid the groundwork for a great trilogy, and you decided to just throw it all away. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like they just took the brush and they're like, nah, let's try again. Let's try this again now.
Yeah. I don't know. Sorry, bro. We totally lost you.
I was lost at that point, but it's okay.
No, it's all good.
Don't feel bad, Brad, because I have 3 friends. They're very casual Star Wars fans, and that's their favorite movie too. Because I look at it as you can just watch that as like a space war movie, because you don't need all the background.
And I know enough to like the Death Star plans and the ending scene when Vader comes out. Like, I know enough, and I have enough of an appreciation for it to be like, to give it gravity. Like, there's gravity to this situation. You know what I mean? Yep. It just, it felt like I didn't like it was. I remember I went and saw which total disclaimer here. I can't do fantasy. I can't. I like Game of Thrones. I've tried. I can't do it. The Lord of the Rings, I can't do the Lord of the Rings. I've tried multiple times. There's something about it. I can't do it. And I went and saw The Hobbit in the theaters with a bunch of people, and they were like, at the end of The Hobbit, they were like, that was so good. And I was like, what just happened? I was like, I don't understand anything that just happened. But it didn't make me feel like that. Rogue One, I like at the end of it, I was like, that was cool. Like that, I enjoyed that quite a bit actually. So,
and like, I guess I enjoyed it so much because I knew like pretty much like what this movie was going to be about. But like, if you were to like say Rogue One, like was just Rogue One. There was no Star Wars universe whatsoever, and that's how. And you started Rogue One.
It would still be a good movie.
It would still be a really good movie, and it would lay the groundwork for who are these characters? Who is Darth Vader? He seemed insane. Yeah. And then who is this Princess Leia? And why is she saying this is hope or whatever? Like, is this a continuation to something bigger than what we have that's going on right now? Maybe it's the start of a rebellion. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I thought it was really good. Like, if you would have put this like in the beginning and then do A New Hope, I mean, I don't know where we would have gone. Like maybe that would have been I don't know. maybe that would have been a really good way to start the entire franchise. I don't know, but the way it was placed into our laps now, I mean, I fell in love with Rogue One. Obviously, I'm looking at this poster right now because I have it, but yeah, I love Rogue One. Yeah, I'm with you, Brad.
Yeah, it was good, man. It's a good movie.
Yeah, I think supposedly it's still happening. There's a movie coming out called Rogue Squadron. It's just going to be about like the X-wing pilots and maybe some TIE fighters. I don't know, but that'd probably end up being something else you would probably like because I'm
Yeah,
sure it'd feel
like
more
a
like Top
standalone
Gun.
kind of thing.
Yeah, that'd probably be a lot more up your alley.
Isn't there?
'cause I'm
Isn't
sure.
there was a game Rogue Squadron, right?
Yep.
I think it came out. Yeah, I like that idea because I come from an aviation background, so I loved the TIE fighters, the X-wing X fighters, and the Y fighters. Like I love seeing them in their battles and space and all that stuff. Like when the way it started with Revenge of the Sith, I fell in love with that entire scene, the whole battle of Grievous' ship and Obi Wan and Anakin trying to get into the ship, and just the whole like mess that was going on. Like I love that part. So like, yeah, I'm all for a squadron movie for sure.
I will say the Star Wars games have always been pretty popular
hmm
with people.
Oh yeah,
You know,
yeah. I think I'll say this.
that's
I
not
was
always the
very
case
much
with
a
movie
fan.
games.
Yeah, I was always a fan of The Force Unleashed, and that had
Oh,
nothing to do with with the trilogy, with the actual franchise as a whole. It was just kind of like a spinoff, and they just threw a couple of characters in there. I
mhm.
enjoyed it. I enjoyed The Force Unleashed.
So I'll have to ask this, and then I totally forgot we're supposed to be talking about Resident Evil here, but I have to ask this: out of all the films, what's your favorite space battle?
Space Battle. Mm, I would say Attack of the Clones. What was it? It was the introduction to the clones after they were being surrounded. What planet were they
Oh,
on?
Geonosis.
I was gonna say Geonosis. Yeah, that was my favorite one because it just introduced the clones, and it just seemed like a total frontal battle, and it pretty much set the tone for what was to come. And I loved the first gen clone troopers. I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed them. I enjoyed the helmets. I enjoyed that, and I just liked the idea of like, okay, this is the start of the war. Because in Attack of the Clones, it was pretty much like it was kind of like political espionage, so to speak, with like the Jedi's and the Sith trying to find allies and stuff like that. But
hmm
yeah, when it came down to the clones finally being deployed, I was like, yes, here we go. We're guns a blazing. And plus, I got into Attack of the Clones before after I watched the series The Clone Wars.
Okay.
So I enjoyed the idea of the clones, the clone troopers versus the droids. So whenever I finally got to watch Attack of the Clones, I was like, oh, I'm down for this. So yeah, the Battle of Geonosis was my favorite.
Interesting.
What about
That's
you?
I'd have to say honestly, the one in Rogue One, the Battle of Scarif. I'd probably say that's my favorite space battle. It's just got everything I want.
For sure, yeah, because it brought back the AT-AT machines, and I always love those machines. And what was it? The Battle of Hoth
Yep.
and the whole way of trying to take them down. But then in Rogue One, it was just simple, like some poor gunner just on the side, just absolutely taking them down. Like
Yeah.
I agree with you. Scarif was a pretty dope battle for sure. So yeah, I'm with you there. Again, Rogue One, Brad, I'm with you. It's a great movie.
it is. I enjoy
Mhm.
it.
So I guess since I guess we were kind of talking about TV shows, what did you guys think of the Netflix Resident Evil
I did
show that
not watch
came out?
that.
You did not
I
watch
I
did
didn't
that.
not
watch it
watch
either.
it. Did you?
You
It's
guys,
actually
you guys are lucky.
I that's what I've heard. I went to start it, and then I started I was gonna find time and I was gonna sit down and watch it when it came out, and I started reading the reviews, and I started texting Miguel about it, and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna set aside very much time to watch this show. So I maybe got through 20 minutes of it and then turned it off, and then I never touched it again. So I'll go finish it one of these days, but I did not hear very good things at all.
Is it worth it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it worth it, buddy?
No.
Yeah.
Honestly, you take your time getting to it.
Yeah.
They already canceled it. They canceled it like 3-4 weeks after it
Yep.
came out. So unfortunately, it leaves off as a cliffhanger.
And Lance Reddick, man, rip. Sucks.
Yeah. I will say
about that. Yeah.
He did. He, for what I know of Wesker, I thought he played a decent Wesker because there's actually a scene in there where he's actually in the getup. He's got the robe. He's got the sunglasses. He's got the haircut. And like that felt, for what I know of Albert Wesker as of now, but it's also weird, like, because it does not feel like Resident Evil. It just feels like another zombie apocalypse show.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I thought of Welcome to Raccoon City, which I was curious if you were going to get that input, was if you had removed Welcome to Raccoon City or Resident Evil from that title, it's a really good zombie film.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. I'm with you guys. I have a huge guilty pleasure for zombie movies and zombie shows. Like, I love them.
Yes. So, and I think that's why a lot of people tend to give Welcome to Raccoon City a lot of hate, because they really pushed it as a pure like video game adaptation of Resident Evil. And I would say the same thing for Paul W. Anderson's Resident Evil. Like, if you would have removed the title Resident Evil, like, that would have been a really great zombie film on its own. But then again, like, Paul W. Anderson's Resident Evil is still a great movie on its own. But like, I think that if they did not have the title of Resident Evil, they didn't tag it as Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City would have been a successful movie, I'd say, for what it was.
Yeah. I don't know. Austin, you kind of touched on something earlier. Maybe it's just not, I don't know. Maybe it's cursed. Maybe it's not a franchise that it's super easily adaptable, because of how much lore and how much story is there.
Mm-hmm. The thing is, though, I mean, I think you guys, it was one of you two. I watched one of your videos, but you worded it so easily, like, it's literally right there. Like,
it is. Mm-hmm.
It's right there on the table. How can you not make this into, again, either a movie or a TV series, or hell, even, you don't even have to go live action. Go animated if you want. Like, you can do everything animated. I mean, bring in the spiders, bring in the big shark, bring in the big snake. Like, bring it all in. Go animated if you have to.
Did you know George Romero actually was going to do a Resident Evil film?
Yes, and there's a documentary coming out, and I want to watch it.
I know, yeah.
I watched the trailer. I'm like, damn, that looks fantastic.
I haven't read the script, but I read a synopsis, and it would have done. He wanted to do the snake and the lizards and the spiders and he wanted to do it all. And essentially, I think part of the reason that his version was scrapped is because the studio looked at it and they were like, with what budget do you want to do a giant snake, bro? Like, what? Like, no. So, but I mean, the dude that created the Night of the Living Dead series, I mean, like, that would have been
really poetic, to be honest. You know what I mean?
It would have been cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think too, because one of the scripts he brought in, like, they would have had to give it like an NC-17 rating.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
I think the gore level and I think the amount of special effects would have just made it nearly impossible to do, which of course is end up how we got the Paul W. with it, which that was in the early 90s, I believe. So I mean, it was like,
I mean, I will give Paul Anderson, I will give him the credit, though. Like, essentially, he kind of basically paid tribute, though, to George Romero with the way he had his zombies doing things, especially in the first film. I mean, to me, easily, that could have been a George Romero film.
I agree.
I'm trying to see when that was supposed to.
Are you
When that
talking
was
about George
released.
Romero's view
Yeah.
of it?
I think it's supposed to be like late 90s somewhere in there, if I remember right.
Oof.
So
I
he
mean,
directed. Capcom hired him to direct a live-action trailer for Resident Evil 2 in
Yep.
1997. So this would have been, I guess, late 90s,
Mhm.
maybe 98, 99 that they would have asked him to develop the script. And then, of course, it didn't end up happening. But because he died in 2017. So.
Man, he's been gone that long already?
yeah, gone for a while.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's even like Wes Craven. I think he's been gone since, what, 2014, 2015, somewhere in there?
Yeah, it's been a while. Yep. Yeah. George Romero actually said in an interview, this is a direct quote, "They didn't like my script. That's what it came down to. It was a German company, and we were working with executives in L.A., and the guy who runs Constantine is the kind of guy who changes the toilet paper himself." We were working with executives who took us in a direction, and gosh, I think we wrote 5 drafts of it, and turned that out when the big man came in, and he wanted to go in a completely different direction, and that was that. All of a sudden, it was over. So, but I mean, I think he probably, it would have been very. I mean, his Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead are like the pinnacle zombie prosthetic effects, And I mean, it would have been all out, especially to do the creatures too. That would have been a lot. It would have been a lot of money.
That definitely would have been for sure.
So,
if you guys could have, you could either do writer, director, or both, who would you guys want or would like to see do Resident Evil?
Quentin Tarantino. No, I'm kidding.
Oh boy. I hate you get the gore down at least.
Yeah, you get the door down.
Because, like, for me, if he was still directing, I'd lean towards John Carpenter.
Yeah.
You're talking about the first movie, I would say.
Mhm.
Like the first Resident Evil, I would say, yeah, for sure, John Carpenter's on that list. I think. I would want. I don't know. I think James Cameron could do a really good Resident Evil. The
I don't
first
think
one,
that's
at
his
least.
style.
You don't think that's his style?
I'm gonna say something, and it might be kind of crazy.
Oh boy.
Let it out.
Christopher Nolan.
Christopher Nolan?
Now, the only reason I say that is because I think he could nail the atmosphere and the gravity of it, the large scale situation, but I think he's also visionary enough to be somebody that could look at the lore and tie it all together in a better way than we've had in the past. Now, for the horror aspect of it, Christopher Nolan would not be my pick. I would almost pick James Wan or something like that.
James
You know what I
Wan.
mean?
Yeah.
I
James,
was
like,
just thinking too.
as a horror person, I say James Wan. As a holy crap, Resident Evil has never been told correctly person, I'm like, Christopher Nolan is a really good storyteller, and I really, really like him. He's maybe my favorite director working today. I really have always liked Christopher Nolan stuff, and I think he's a good storyteller. So from a story, if I could have Christopher Nolan write the script and James Wan direct it, or both of them write the script and James Wan direct it, that'd be perfect. So the horror fan in me says James Wan, probably.
You know what? I'll say this. Would it look cartoony if I say this? Maybe, but I think Sam Raimi could have some fun with that
that
too.
would be a good choice too, though.
I
could
think
see
he
that.
could pull that off,
Mm-hmm.
especially with how successful his Evil Dead series was, and I mean,
And that's what I was thinking, because like what are the names of those? What are the names of the Evil Dead? Deadites.
Deadites?
Yeah. the way the Deadites were in regards to the makeup, like, whoa, wicked. I think he'd do zombies their justice. I think he'd give it their due just. I think.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
know a lot of people.
creature designs from like Ash versus Evil Dead, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I agree with that. I like both of them choices. They're both great.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people would also probably argue Guillermo del Toro too. That would be super gothic and weird though.
Yeah.
He could do Village.
Yeah,
He
he
could
would
do
do
Village.
Seven and Village very well.
Yeah.
But
But I was just thinking, like, in regards to I was trying to think, like, the mansion. Yes, I could totally see James Wan. No, I could see Sam Raimi doing the mansion really well with the whole like propped up frontal camera. Cause you know how they do like the shaky cam, but it's like you're viewing the actual character. Like that'd be a really cool way to capture some of the horror-esque of the mansion. Because I'll say this, there is one scene in Welcome to Raccoon City that I absolutely love, and it was when Chris was in the mansion and all he had was the lighter and his knife, and he was just in there
yeah.
wrecking zombies left and right. That scene
That
right
was
there, so claustrophobic, so eerie, and so action packed. I love that scene so much. I think Sam Raimi could have captured that entire thing in his movie.
But if you remember when that scene happened, I was like, oh, I yawned. Apparently, this is what happens when you have a kid. But I remember I even looked at you and I was like, dude, why couldn't the entire movie have been this? Like just the mansion stuff and make a really, 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 really creepy, claustrophobic, atmospheric, dark film about the events of the mansion. Don't worry about Raccoon City yet. Just worry about the Alpha Bravo team stuff with the mansion and Chris and Jill being in there and kind of making their way downtown, walking fast through the mansion, like all that stuff, you know? Also, two thoughts here. Another really good director, if you wanted to get the horror side of Resident Evil, Danny Boyle. Again, 28 Days Later. 28 Days Later is one of the few movies that genuinely freaks me out. Still to this day, and I've seen it multiple times. It's so atmospheric and so just weird. It's different. It's not dark. None of it really takes place in the dark. It all takes place pretty much in broad daylight, but it's still very isolated and very, I don't know. There's something about it. One of those two would probably be my choice.
I could even see Zack Snyder too doing.
Yeah.
You would get your slow motions though.
That's true. I would.
You would have like it would be a 3-hour movie, and the reason why is because the actual plot would be 2.5 hours, and it's just slow
half hours slow
yeah.
Chris would go to stab a zombie in the head, and he'd go.
Did have it zoom in on the zombie like running towards him, and zoom in on the knife, and have some cheesy ass music.
When somebody gets bit, it would be like.
And there has to be like a slow-mo, like Spartan kick. Like Chris Redfield's just gonna Spartan kick a zombie into a wall with slow mode. Yeah. Then that being said, I'm sure Zack Snyder would have a tremendous time just directing the first Resident Evil movie. I think he would have some fun, but I know he'd have way more fun with those slow motions.
Yeah.
I could see him doing more like Resident Evil 5 if he did a movie.
And that's where I was getting at. I was like, if you're just talking about the mansion, I could think of plenty of horror directors, you know, like true horror directors. But when you get into like 4, 5, and 6, dog, like Michael Bay could do it.
Michael Bay has to do 6.
If he has to do 6, like if you want to do any of those, yeah, I could totally see Zack Snyder, Michael Bay, any one of them.
I'm gonna be real. Whenever I think of Michael Bay, the very first thing I think of is Transformers. Yeah. And
you know what?
Linkin Park starts playing in my head, and I think about like 25 explosions happening at the same time, and Optimus Prime like diving over my head. Like that's what I think of when I think of him.
And there's some slow motion shots too, so you're gonna get those.
Yeah, there's slow motion explosions happening as the Optimus Prime is flying over my head.
Yeah. So yeah, I could see those directors making some huge splash if they ever decide to do it.
Yeah.
I just don't know why it's just not being picked up by the studios.
I don't
By the right studios, if that makes sense.
I don't even think it's picked up by the studios. I don't know why it's not being done correctly. You know?
Mhm.
I don't there's so much potential there, and it just kind of feels like it's wasted almost. Even if you could say Welcome to Raccoon City was good, or you can say the Paul W.S. Anderson films were good, but I don't think that would you say either of them are like great? Like, this is Resident Evil.
Either or.
Either of them. Because I think I liked things about Welcome to Raccoon City. I like things about Paul W.S. Anderson's films, but neither of them feel like, yep, that's Resident Evil. They nailed it. They nailed the vibe. They nailed the story. I don't think the story's ever really been nailed.
I could think of moments. If that
No,
counts.
right. There are moments where it's like, oh yeah, that moment feels very Resident Evil-esque, but the overall story, I don't think has ever been nailed.
I could agree with that statement.
Yeah, I'd say so too.
And the potential's there for it to be. It's just somebody's got to come along and do it.
Because like all like the little one-offs, like the animated movies, the couple TV shows, like I'll give them credit for trying to do something like new and different, and I guess if you want to use the word fresh to a degree,
yeah,
I can give them that credit. But yeah, the execution, it never really works out.
The intentions are always there, but the execution is never there either.
Yes,
I'll say that.
Agree. Yeah,
that's the only way I can describe a Resident Evil live action movie.
Even the cast members in Welcome to Raccoon City, like, they weren't bad, but they didn't necessarily give off the same vibes as the characters of the game that they were portraying. You know what I mean? Wesker did. The guy who played Wesker did. I don't remember his name, but he did pretty well. But like Leon kind of felt like
whoever
a goof in Welcome to Raccoon City. You know?
What's his name? He played the doctor. Fuck.
Oh, Neil O'Donoghue.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought he
did
well. Birkin.
He did. He played Birkin very
I thought he did pretty well.
Yeah.
See, even like Robbie Amell, I thought Robbie Amell was probably the best out of them all. Like he to me felt like
was that
classic.
Chris? Yeah, he did Chris. I will say, he was maybe the one that felt the most game accurate, other than Birkin. Because he even kind of looked the part. Like, he looked like video game Chris from the beginning.
Young Boy Scout Chris.
Young boy.
I guess me personally, I didn't mind. I don't know what her name is. It's so like
Kaya Scledario.
Yeah, the chick who played Claire.
Yeah.
I didn't mind her. I thought she did decent as Claire. Like I will willingly say I like Ali Larder's version of Claire from.
I did too.
Like, unpopular opinion, that's my favorite character out of all them films. I thought she did the best. If I was stuck with her for all 6 movies, man, I'd have been a happy camper. I don't even care how bad they were. But even Jill, I didn't think Jill was terrible either.
That's true. I didn't mind Jill. Like the whole Bravo company and the whole mansion thing. I thought the entire cast right there was pretty spot on. But I don't know. They were just. I think the only thing that's really bothered me was Leon, because everyone else seemed pretty much well fitted for what we were getting. When I knew Welcome to Raccoon City was coming, I was like, okay, we're obviously not going to get like A-list actors that we want, like our top tier, like top cast, like we want to see these people playing. I knew we were not going to get that, but I was happy with what we were going to get with these other, like, I guess, second tier actors. Like, I was okay with them. Like, they matched the profile of what we're wanting. But then, like, the execution of it with like Leon, like, I think that's the only thing that really set me off. And I was like, it's like they held the entire cast down. Like, all respect to the actor, Haven. But I swear to God, every single time I was like, this is pretty good. And then I see Leon and I'm like, oh, come Come on.
Oh, never mind.
Miguel.
Those are good.
Miguel working on the set would be like, "You're holding the movie down, bro."
No. I'm just saying they try to make him to like a comic relief. Like why do so many movies like this have to have some sort of comic relief?
Well,
Movies would be dreadful.
I don't even care about if they have comic relief. Like that's fine. But like Leon says one-liners in the games, but it was just more like when because yes, Leon is scared when the Raccoon City outbreak happens because he's a rookie and it's his first day and it's still zombies. Like it's not like any other cop is prepared for that either. So yes, he's scared, but it was like they almost overdid it with like the incompetence thing. Like when he's trying to like load the gun or get the gun ready and he can't do it. I'm like, bro, you're still a cop. You still went through the police academy. Like, and you can't even pull your gun out to shoot, it was odd. The thing that killed me is when the semi guy crashes and he's sitting there he's got his headphones on and he's knocked and,
the zombie just walks in.
He just walks in and claps. And I'm like, dude, those headphones, it's 1998. Like they weren't like noise canceling beats, It just is funny. I was like, he would have heard and felt that, and it was just little choices like that I was kind of like, oh, okay.
I think it's like with movies in general. Like I don't care who you cast. If they can play the character, I'm fine with that. The guy they picked for Leon, that was not That was not Leon.
Yeah.
Very weak. Mm-hmm. Like the other thing I know him from is he was in some show Victorious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the only thing I know him from. So I don't really know what else he's acted in or whatever, but yeah, that was not Leon in any way, shape, or form. Even when you first meet him, he's waking up at 10 o'clock, he's drinking a beer just to get up for the day. Like,
yeah. He very well may be a good actor, but I don't think that role worked for him at all. Because I don't think Leon strikes me as the guy that tries really hard and is kind of like he was probably a good student and he's still cool and he's still kind of a cool guy, but like he's still a good person. He's still the guy who tries really hard. This guy, like you said, he's drinking a beer at 10 a.m. just to try to stay awake, and he's waking up late and he's being late for work and he's incompetent and he can't do things, and it's just like, okay.
It's so the opposite of Leon.
Yeah.
Like you even have the guy from Retribution, like he's got the look down. The acting, that's a whole other story on its own.
Yeah, he looked good, but he did not act or sound good. But to be fair, the writing for him was also terrible. Like I feel like Leon's entire purpose in that movie was every time something dramatic happens to just be like,
it's basically a model. Have that model look on him.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Calvin Klein.
We have to go do this thing. There's danger. his hair waving, his gray hair waving.
And like his hair is always like covering his face, kind of like a real emo grunge kind of like.
It didn't work. Didn't work. Not for me.
So I guess my next question for both of you: who would you say, I guess, favorite villain, or who would you also say is the best villain in all of Resident Evil?
That's a loaded question. It would
be a cop out for me to say Wesker, but I would say
Wesker.
No, because I'm gonna go with not like storyline villain, but just like gameplay villains. Who would I say?
Well, are we okay, Austin? Are we talking like main villains, or are we talking like enemies in the games?
Just more like the main like bosses, I guess you could say.
I got you.
I guess though, while we are on the subject, what would be your favorite enemy type?
Overall, I mean, Wesker's probably my favorite villain in the game. My favorite enemy type, I don't know. I like the plain zombies. Like I like the straight up zombies, but I also like the Ganados in Resident Evil like 4 and 5, like what they did with the parasite thing where they have weapons. They're still using weapons. Some of them are grabbing you. The chainsaw people are pretty cool. In 4 and in 5. I actually really liked the chainsaw thing.
I think chainsaw was like the main. I think chainsaw was like a really big trope because I can think of. Let me think. Dr. Salvador, Resident Evil 4.
Yes, yeah.
He had a chainsaw. I think did Lisa Trevor have one, or was she just like, she just had like her like locked arms or whatever? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it was just her locked arms.
I got you, but it was like the same kind of like thing. It was like just wailing it at you, like you better make sure you dodge them. I was surprised, Brad. Did you say the regenerators? I'm surprised you didn't say that.
The regenerators are good too. Also, 4 had those. I keep coming back to 4, man. That goes to show you. 4 had the dudes with the arm, the 3 blades, the Wolverine looking.
Oh, the blind ones.
Yeah, the blind. They have the spike through their eyes, and they kind of just swing at you like those were hard too. Those were pretty cool.
Those things are terrifying in the remake.
6, the villains in 6 didn't really stick out to me. I mean, the Ustanak was cool, like the Nemesis copycat.
I just didn't like the fact that we ended up with a Wesker 1v1 kind of like Fist of Fury kind of thing at the end. That's kind of like like you end up having to fight them and like this little molten volcanic factory. I'm like, okay, I get it, but like we kind of moved very far away from like the whole zombie tropes.
Right. Yeah. The Executioner was pretty cool in Resident Evil 5 too.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty neat.
I'd say mine is probably like Severus and the Lickers, I would say. Because I remember, I'm sure if you guys have played like the very first one, whenever
Lickers too, yeah.
Whenever the dogs like burst through the window, like I'm sure like that gave like a lot of people like probably sphinctered a lot of buttholes, I'd say, when the first time people played that game, you know what I mean? So yeah. And okay, I'll say this. Lisa Trevor definitely was the one that really scared the shit out of me. I'm not gonna lie. I never really did like her character. Mainly not because of the story, just because how freaky she is. I'll say that.
Yeah. The Lickers were pretty cool too. Lickers were always neat villains. Any of the mutated creature things were kind of neat.
Mm-hmm. I'll say this. The one I did not like, I'll say, if you guys want to answer yours, I did not like Deborah Harper in Resident Evil 6. She was low key kind of weird because she was like silhouetted, kind of naked, but then like all of a sudden like fucking spider tentacles would come out of nowhere and just like absolutely wreck you if you didn't dodge quick enough. And she was like kind of seductive, walking up towards you. And I'm like, I feel weird, just like absolutely just unloading a whole ass AK-47 clip into this woman. So I was like, I don't know, but I didn't really like Deborah Harper is what the name was. I think so.
See, I guess if it came down to like villains,
I'm trying to think. There's one that I'm thinking of in Resident Evil 4 that I'm the Vertigo.
The Vertigo.
This is the one where Leon Vertigo. Do you know what I'm talking about? There's a scene I remember where Leon is like kind of going in between, and it's like slithering, chasing you.
I think that's the Vertigo.
I'm looking at a picture of it right now.
Is it the thing that kind of looks weirdly like a xenomorph?
Maybe, kind of, yeah.
It's like
you kind of have to dodge. You have to dodge it a lot.
Yep. That's the Verdugo. That's the things that are behind Salazar when you first meet him in 4, but they have like robes and stuff on.
Yes,
bro, I swear, Resident Evil 4 just had like the most out of pocket.
It did. It was whack.
Out of pocket enemies that you just wouldn't expect.
It was a lot.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, right. For me, enemy types, I'm so torn because I really did. I will say with Resident Evil 4, the original, I do like the Ganados. I think I like them more in the remake. But man, I'll be honest, I'd probably have to say the Lycans from Village.
Village had, again, I didn't play it, but it looked like it had a lot of cool villains in it.
I mean, I wanted to play it so much because it had You said werewolves. Yeah, I was like, whoa. I was like, I'm down for this.
Yeah, it's something new and fresh. Like, it's not zombies. I will say 7, even though as much as I love it, like the enemy variety was just garbage.
Yeah. Mia was kind of crazy in 7 though too, when she's like trying to kill you and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty cool.
That in VR. Nope.
Oh, I bet.
Especially her cutting off your hand.
Mia in not VR is kind of scary.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, going down them stairs.
Like you'll be walking down a hallway and she'll grab you and just turn you, and it's like, okay, you're right there. Like it's creepy.
Oh, it's me. I know you didn't mean to, but you shouldn't have done that. It fucking hurt. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Well, God damn, man. I'd say least favorite villain / boss fight. That one's hard for me because I really don't think there's one I've like hated per se. I'd say a more frustrating one though. I'd probably say Sadler. Sadler's a very that one's
Sadler was tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
The El Gigantes are pretty cool, and Resident Evil 4 as well.
Yeah, I don't remember.
In 5.
Is there an armored one too in that one that you fight? Okay.
Yes. And then in 5 they have something. I think in 5 they throw things at you, or you kind of have to evade them some on the truck, and yeah.
Oh, 5. That one, there's just one like a town, and you're just on a gun, and he just comes at you.
You're on the back of a truck, and I think there's 2 of them.
I don't remember. I only remember the one. That one was pretty frustrating too, though.
Yeah.
There was I would say the most frustrating one I've played with was in Resident Evil 6, and I forgot what the name of them were, and I found it, but I just can't remember how to say its name. It's like Rascalapanje or whatever. It's like the weird grayish. I shit you not. Look that shit up. It's RASKL.
It was the Rascalapanje. I think the villain I like the best.
I hated those. I hated those so much because when you would shoot them, and if you got them in a certain area, they blow up. They become like 6 different little. They'd be like their limbs would blow up, but then like all the rest of their limbs would continue to attack you. Yeah, it was the worst. It was like you got in like the. It was like in the. I think it was the Leon level or Leon storyline when they were like in the market in China. And like these things just come out of nowhere, and they're trying to throw you in everything, plus the kitchen sink at you. Like, I did not like those people. I did not like it. Not a fan.
Man, I would say though my favorite villain in all of Resident Evil, again unpopular opinion because of the game, but for me it's Jack Baker.
Jack Baker.
I understand that. I'm not gonna fault anybody for that. He's not my favorite, but he was cool.
Yeah, I just enjoyed him. He's just so charismatic. He's making jokes. Like it's terrifying the jokes that he's making at you. But I will say I liked his boss fight. His final boss fight was very fun.
Yeah.
Still
I'll have to play Resident Evil 7 because like the way you keep talking about it, it's like it seems like my type of game. Not in VR, of course. I ain't playing that shit in VR. Fuck that shit. Sorry, no offense, but no, yeah.
Dude, Marguerite was pretty tough too. Yes. Marguerite was tough in 7. I spent a lot of time trying. I died many times trying to play that.
Traumatizing is the word I use for her boss fight.
Yeah. Well, you make the corner and you turn to run up the stairs, and her head pops through the thing, and you're like, oh, okay. It's creepy.
Well, even too, like you go to look down because you got to go get her lantern, so you can go and open up a door, and there's just this long arm that just comes out and just grabs it, and then you go down there to go catch it, and she's just crawling down like a spider. It's like, nah. Fuck.
Yeah, it's creepy, for sure.
Oh my god, I'm ready to play this game so bad.
Dude, I do, man. I love 7 so much. I love the story. Ethan Winters as a character in this, I know they're trying to like project that like it's you, so like he doesn't have a lot of like personality or much to him, but he's a lot better in Village. I definitely like him a lot more in that, but man, just 7 with the horror and like the different types of horror that are in it. You know, you have slasher, psychological, body horror. You get torture porn to a degree with like Lucas Baker. It's more like Jigsaw kind of stuff with him.
I could see that, yeah. So, because I'm just looking at little stills right now of this game, and I'm just like
I forgot
really
about that
falling in love with
chainsaw
it.
section, dude. The chainsaw section at 7 was dope.
Yeah. Once again,
Different, like a different take on it, you know, on the chainsaw people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, I didn't entirely hate the molded. I just wish there would have been more different varieties of them in the game.
Right.
Because I know my buddy Ethan, we were playing the game together, and he has this like fear of like things that crawl, so he hated like the 4-legged molded that were crawling over.
I bet he had a rough time playing 7.
Especially when we get to the ship, because like it's like crawling on the floor, and then all of a sudden it starts jumping from wall to wall, and he's like, oh my god, no.
Yeah.
Lots of fantastic moments watching him play that.
Oh, I bet.
Dude. Well, man, I'd like to ask you guys some Village questions, but you guys haven't played it.
I know. It sucks. Well, how about this? I know that with summer coming up for Brad, and I'm hopefully being able to get some vacation days coming soon with my job. I might end up trying to get on to Village right now. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's gonna be.
I'm gonna be real. 4 takes place over Village for me. I want to play 4 before I play that.
Really?
So. Don't blame you. It's
yeah.
See, yeah. I have the again. I'm just full of unpopular opinions all the time. That's just me. But these 5 games are my top 5 favorite Resident Evil games in the whole franchise.
Yeah.
Like I know it's unpopular with 3 because it's got so much cut content. There's not a lot, especially if you buy it for $60 and you only get 4 hours of gameplay for it. But it does come with Resident Evil Resistance, so if you guys are excited to play that, which
right, 3 is only 4 hours long.
Yeah, you can beat it in 4 hours.
Wow,
and that's even like scavenging for bullets and herbs and everything. Like
is 2 that short, or is 2 longer?
2 is like anywhere between like 7 to 10. My only gripe with 2 though is like the campaigns are very similar. Like you basically do the same thing with each campaign. You're finding the same items. There's just a section in the game they each have their own thing. Like with Leon, you have a storyline with Ada in there, and then with Claire, you have one with Sherry Birkin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I mean, that's just my biggest gripe. And the enemies, like the zombies in there, dude, they are bullet sponges.
Bullet sponges.
Dude,
it takes a lot to take them down. Yeah.
6 headshots.
Really?
I'm not even shitting you. Like they go down in 4, but they get back up. But if you hit them in a certain spot on the side of their head finally blows up.
That's a change from the originals.
Yes.
Well, I'd be curious to see, like you had said about there's so much cut content from the 3rd game. I'd be curious to see like how it matches up. That's why I kind of want to play the remakes, because I'd be curious to see how they match up with the other entries. You know what I mean? How like 2 matches up with the original 2 story wise, and how, you know, like I wondered that about 4. Like, are they going to cut anything from Resident Evil 4? You know, just because there's so much.
There's only one thing I noticed personally that they cut from Resident Evil 4, and that's just one section in one little boss fight. I don't know if they're going to add it, because supposedly they're going to do the separate ways too. They're going to add that into the game here in a while, but it's the U3.
U3.
That's one where you're in like the 3 different sections. You got to run around and like open up the doors.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
Yeah, that's the only.
You're underground, right? Is that the key card thing?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only boss fight that's not in the game.
Okay, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
That's
other than that,
another one I spent a lot of time on.
Other than that, you get Salazar, you get Sadler, you get Menendez, you get him in there. His boss fight was actually pretty quick. I was kind of surprised with how quick that boss fight was. Because, of course, people are already cheating the game because you get like the bolts, the little bolt launcher.
Yeah.
And you get mines on it, so if you just put it in the right spot, so when he jumps to where he needs to go, you can literally basically kill him in 2 shots.
Right.
I'm like, really? We're doing this already in this game?
Yeah.
But yeah, I would highly suggest 4 if you want to play one. But I would play 2 first, though, because this Leon really kind of goes and transitions really good into the Leon you get in the 4 remake.
Okay.
That's one of my biggest gripes, I will say, about the original Resident Evil 4, because it's, to me, it's just such like a 180 from how Leon was in the original 2, and now all of a sudden he's just, doing suplexes and roundhouse kicks and kip ups, and
right,
he's all confident and making one-liners and quips. I'm like, this is Leon? Like, what?
Yeah,
what?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was saying Resident Evil 6, that was the thing. Like, you could do roundhouse kicks and suplexes and stuff like that if you got close to the zombies. So,
I mean, though, yeah, like it's what makes Resident Evil 4, obviously stand out and very unique. Obviously, I'm assuming that's one of the many reasons why Brad and a lot of other guys probably like the game, because of Leon, obviously. But to me, it's just
his character was good.
But to me, it's just he's just so far like removed from how he was in the second game.
I understand that.
That is just me, unfortunately.
I'm just checking out all these other villains that we have over Resident Evil 4.
You could ramble on the villains forever. There's so many to choose from,
So many.
Huh.
So I guess location-wise, what's your guys' favorite location in all of Resident Evil?
Like location from a game or like singular?
Probably mostly from the games, like the village from like 4, or like the clock tower or whatever.
The village from 4 is good. Some of those Raccoon City areas were pretty cool. I think the idea of Raccoon City is cool. People, the sense of isolation, the sense of chaos, the sense of people just dropping their belongings to try to get away and things like that. Like I don't know, that the whole idea of that is cool, which I'm into that anyways because I'm a zombie guy. But I if I had to pick a singular location from the games, probably the village in Part 4. Just it's the most nostalgic for me. I don't know, I have so much nostalgia for that game. Like, somebody posted on Twitter a video of the theme, the save theme from Resident Evil 4, and like I can't even describe to you, like as soon as I heard it, like it gave me goosebumps. Like I was just like, that feeling just kind of like washes over you from like what it felt like as a kid to hear that theme, things like that. So that the whole beginning of that game is nostalgic. But if I had to pick a single location, it'd probably be the village from 4.
I would say the Lashang China in Resident Evil 6. I've talked about that one a lot just because of like all the different types of monsters and zombies you had to deal with. And I think when it came down, like it was like a certain scene after Chris finally gets out of a certain building and he sees like the chaos that's happening in the town, and yet he still has a news cameraman like in his face that he has to like shove away, and then you see the entire mass destruction that's going on. Like I enjoyed the China.
That was
location.
Cool too. Yeah.
I
forgot about him shoving the cameraman out of the way.
Yeah, I was like, woof. And then when it came down to like the whole unleashing of the C virus, like seeing how much of a bioweapon that was and how like just like blew up and engulfed the entire fucking city. And then within that good old plume of smoke, the zombies just start coming out of nowhere, coming through the glass just to break through, and next thing you know, like that entire area is just completely overrun with zombies. Yeah, I enjoyed that location.
Okay.
What about you?
Man, I'm torn between three places. It's the RPD from Resident Evil 2. I love being in there. I love going through all the different like the little mazes and stuff you do, all the puzzles, and how it used to be like an actual like museum before they turned it into a police station. I
Yeah.
really like. I'm also too. I'd have to lean towards the Baker House. I just love
Mhm.
how just dank and creepy, and to me, it's just got the best
Dank.
atmosphere.
Dank and creepy.
Tank.
Dank and creepy.
Crusty, musty, and dusty.
Dusty.
Yes,
Oh man.
but to me, that I would say that's probably the most atmospheric of all of them. And really close after that, I'd have to say Castle Dimitrescu from Village. Like that castle is just so beautiful and so large. There's just so much to explore.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. And I think with the when it came down to when you guys keep talking about the Baker House, I always felt that it seemed like it was in a small house from what I can tell. It's like it seems like a really small house, but the way you guys keep talking about it, it's like a huge it's like way more woven in. Like it's kind of like an outlast, like it's like a huge mansion or whatnot. Like I feel like there's more than meets the eye, right?
Right.
Yeah, basically.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I really want to check out Seven and Village, just because like those are like the newer installments, and I love the first person atmosphere that I'm pretty much going to be getting from it. So I really want to check that out for sure.
Right now, I'll be honest. As much as I love Seven, I think if I continue to play Village, I really think it could move up to my number one spot.
Really.
Yeah, it's got good action. Again, Ethan Winters, he's a much better character in this compared to he was in the first game.
Mm-hmm.
There's one section because you go to like different houses because you have four different big villains that you fight, and I believe it's the second house you go to. It's just so creepy with like the psychological horror that you go through walking around, and I would just say there's a big surprise during that. Is all I will say with that one.
Okay. Yeah. Please don't spoil it for me. I'm
Oh,
curious to get into it. Yeah.
I will say the fourth. They're called Lords. I would say the fourth Lord's probably my favorite and probably the most fun boss fight in the whole game. And just location wise, man, it's just I don't know what it is, but like the village that you are in that one, I love it so
Mhm.
much.
Let me ask you this, and I can't have an opinion on this because I haven't played Village. Which one did you think was scarier, 7 or 8?
Oh, 7 by a landslide.
Really?
Yeah, because
Huh.
when it comes to Village, they listened to the feedback from like most people who played it, and they said it was almost too scary. So they toned down the horror quite a bit. So it is more like you're playing Resident Evil 4. It leans more towards
Okay.
that. It's a little bit more action than horror. But to me, the villains are like probably the most memorable thing about that whole game.
Yeah.
Them and the locations that you fight them in.
Vibe.
Cool.
Yeah. I'll check that out again. I really need to check these two
I
games out for sure.
I need to play it, and I know I need to play it, and I feel bad because I'm a bad Resident Evil fan because there's so many that I haven't played, but I need to get back on the game train really bad. I do.
Yeah, I need to play 5 and 6, and then I think besides the original trilogy, I've got pretty much all the mainline games pretty much played.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll work my way into like Revelations and Code Veronica.
Yeah. Do you think you'll go back and play that original trilogy?
I don't think so. The voice acting, the tank controls, like the graphics aren't really going to bother me because man, I could still go back and play
Right.
like old PS1 games, so like that
Yeah.
won't bother me. But I just don't think I'd make it very far if I played the original games anymore.
Yeah, the fixed angles are difficult. It is hard, and I'm somebody that went back and played them, because I played 4 first, and then I played 5, and when I bought 6, I bought the anthology edition of 6, so it came with 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and 4 in a digital copy.
Okay.
So that's when I went back, and of course I'd already played 4 and 5, but it. So I went back and I played 1, 2, and 3, together, and it was difficult. It wasn't hard, or it wasn't easy, but it was fun to do.
And my final question for you guys: top 3 Resident Evil games.
I'll let Brad go first.
I mean, we know what your number 1 is, at least.
My number 1's going to be 4. Yes, 4's number 1. 5 is probably number 2.
Okay.
This is a hard question. I For nostalgic purposes, I want to say Outbreak. For fun purposes, I want to say Operation Raccoon City, because I enjoyed Operation Raccoon City. I thought it was pretty cool. I'd probably have to go with Outbreak.
Okay.
So 4, 5, and Outbreak. And Outbreak is a weird one. And Outbreak isn't necessarily one of the better games in the franchise, but it was very unique, and it was pretty creepy and eerie, which I liked about it. I liked that about it. So 6 is up there too, but 6 was just it was so chaotic. There was so much happening, which again I think is what Miguel liked about it too.
I loved it. So I mean, with my list, I can go for Umbrella Chronicles,
that was a good one too.
Revelations, and 6. I would say, yeah, those are my 2. And people sleep on Umbrella Chronicles, even though it's definitely a spinoff. It's a pretty big spinoff, and but I just think it was really cool just to see like their side of the issues. But I don't know. It felt more like an arcade-ish kind of games, and that was something that I enjoyed, and that's something that I attribute Resident Evil with so much. I didn't really attribute it with like the usual games that they had. I always used it as like the arcade, like you have like the gun and the laser, and you're just over here popping zombies left and right, and you're going through the levels kind of thing. I always fell in love with that. So whenever I got that game for the Wii, I enjoyed it, and it gave a lot of cool little interesting stories with Wesker and the Umbrella Corporation and everything like that. So
Dark Side Chronicles was a good one too. I forgot about that one.
Dark Side Chronicles, yeah.
Which is the one with Leon and Krauser? Isn't there one with them 2 in it? It's like
an extra DLC kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
What is that?
Because I thought there was like a standalone game with like Leon and Krauser in it.
See, Dark Side Chronicles was a Wii. It was a Wii game.
Okay. I'm not getting anything for that one, but
maybe I just made that up. I thought I heard that. I thought I was watching a video about that earlier today.
Nah, you're good. I would say I think that was what I think it was just an animated movie, if I'm not mistaken. It very well could have been. Wait, no. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it was Resident Evil 4, wasn't it? Or am I mistaken on that one too?
Well, I know Krauser is in that, but I thought there was like a game where either they were in it together or they talked about the event that made Krauser go and work with the Los Illuminados.
I gotcha. No, I'm not really following. I don't know if there was a game like that.
I think that might be in
Dark
Side Chronicles. Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. It's in Dark Side Chronicles that we see Krauser again. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Now that's not the plot of the entire game, but that's a piece of it.
Gotcha.
So I guess for me, my top three as of now, I would probably say the RE4 remake right now is number 3. Like that.
Yeah.
Story, gameplay wise, horror wise, great. Second place easily is Village. Again, probably has the potential to be number 1 someday. And yeah, number 1 is Resident Evil 7 for me.
So pretty much all the newer ones, which I think is totally valid, I would say, because I mean,
100%.
yeah, they're doing something completely new with the franchise, I'd say. And
like I said,
I'm really okay with it.
At the beginning of the show, like it's one of the few franchises that has consistently stayed good. And it's gone through phases, it's done different things, it's evolved over time, but it's been good from the time it started,
Mm-hmm.
So I think I wouldn't fault anybody for whatever their top 3 games are, just because everybody's got a different flavor and everybody's got a different style that works for them. And for me, I liked what 4, 5, and 6 did, but I mean, like you, Austin, you like what the newer stuff does and the remakes, and it's cool. It's a hell of a franchise, and it's one that I have always had a lot of love for. It's the thing that I credit as getting me into horror. I love it a lot.
It is fantastic.
It is.
So, all right, guys, that is going to probably do it here for this episode of the Midwest Cantina podcast. I want to thank Brad and Miguel for being here. Guys, tell everybody where we can find you and what you guys have coming up on your channel.
You can find us on the Let's Talk Movies YouTube channel. We actually just opened a brand new Facebook group, which Austin was one of our first members in, the Let's Talk Movies YouTube channel community page. It's kind of a mouthful, but if you search
But
that,
a big thanks.
yeah, and we have 2 shows. We have Let's Talk Movies and Purely and Simply Evil, and that's our horror show where we take deep dives into horror films. Yeah, we're actually going to be on Fletch Show on this coming Friday, right? If I'm not mistaken, this coming Friday. I forget the topic, Flet. You'll have to remind everybody. But we're going to be on, that show, and we're just doing our thing. So, if you want to follow us on social media at LTM Podcast KY.
We're also going to try to keep going with TikTok, even though I know it's probably going to get freaking banned, but, we're still hoping for the best.
Yeah,
so.
we finally joined TikTok, and then all this stuff started coming out about TikTok being banned. I was like, of course.
Yeah.
It's okay. What are you going to do? Yeah, that's what it is. You're right. So on Fletch Show, we're going to talk our top 10 favorite horror films. So that'll be next Friday. That'll be fun.
Also too excited.
So, and Austin, thanks so much for having us on, man. And if you're one of our listeners, 100% make sure you subscribe to Austin's channel, because he does a lot of really great work here.
I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, hopefully it gets you.
Check him out too, because clearly he's a big fan.
Yeah. Hopefully I can have you guys back on again at some point.
Absolutely.
Sure we can easily come up with a topic at some point. So
we'd be glad to, man.
But all right, guys, that is going to do it. Again, make sure you guys go and subscribe to these guys. Again, I put all the links to their channel down in the description below. And with that being said, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next one.
Peace, guys.
See you all. Thanks, all.